for Jadon Sancho. Cristiano Ronaldo is not available for today's game. So let's give you their side, and it is David De Gea in goal, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Raphael Varane and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The back four, you've got Fred and Paul Pogba at the heart of midfield, and a front four, a very exciting front four of Jadon Sancho, Bruno Fernandes, Daniel James and Mason Greenwood. Delighted to say that I am joined by David Connolly for this one. And David, let's start with that Manchester United side, because they have so much talent. You've got World Cup winners in Paul Pogba and Raphael Varane. You've got Luke Shaw, who's had ever such a good year with England and Manchester United. You've got Bruno Fernandes, got a hat-trick on the opening match day of the season. Jadon Sancho sparkling potentially. And you've got Mason Greenwood, who scored in both league games so far.
Yeah, good afternoon, Kevin. I mean, it is exciting, and you mentioned about, obviously, and I think they've been superb signings. Certainly Jadon Sancho, and you'll know him far better than me, Kevin, but I mean, I think that is arguably the best signing of the summer. I think he's going to bring so much to this United side. And you know what? They weren't that far away last season. You know, if you go back to last season, they got off to an awful start. I had a really good look at this. They lost at home to Palace and Spurs and Arsenal. They lost 3 times in the first 6. And after that, they lost 2 in the final 4, something like that. So you take those games out of their season, they would be right on the tails of Man City. So you're right to say that they are going to go for a title push. They will be up there competing for the title, and I guess judging by everyone else's signings, they've had to have made the signings that they have just to keep up. But they weren't far away last season either.
Are we at the point now, though, David, where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hasn't won a major trophy? They lost the Europa League final last season against Villarreal. They've had 4 semi-finals and not managed to get through in those. Are we at the point where he really does have to win a major trophy? Otherwise, the pressure's really on.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, look, he's the manager of Manchester United, so he'll always be under pressure to win a trophy. But as I said, I think they are closing that gap. He's had 100 games in charge now. I think is this his 100th, something like that.
100th in the Premier League today, yeah.
And obviously you've got players returning from the Euros who've started really well. Paul Pogba, obviously, who's looked brilliant. Fernandes, he's got his existing squad that he's already added to. So look, he's the manager of Man United. I think their disappointment will be their performance. I think against Villarreal, I don't think was particularly great. Certainly for a United side in that final, which would have been disappointing for them. But they're going to be up there competing, make no mistake.
On the Wolves side of things, lots of goal attempts, lots of endeavour in attack, but no goals and no points so far. Yeah,
I think this is always going to be a very, very tough job for Bruno Lage. I mean, obviously replacing Nuno is always going to be a tough act to follow. And if you look at the players that have gone out the door, I don't think necessarily those players have been replaced. They might have been in terms of the money spent, but I don't think they've had the same output. Whether it's Matt Doherty, gone out the door, Diego Jota gone out the door. I don't know. I just think they are still lacking a little bit. And for Bruno, he's got a tough job on his hands. He hasn't changed anything, has he? I mean, he's kept the same sort of shape, same formation. Yeah. It's not like someone goes in to take over Sheffield United under Chris Wilder and rips up the 3-5-2. It's more or less continuing the same. He's obviously hoping that Raul Jimenez starts firing for him.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Jimenez. On a striker's point of view, David, obviously he was out a long time with that skull injury. He's come back. It's remarkable how quickly he's come back in some ways. How badly does he need a goal just to get him going? Yeah, I mean, he's one of those players that when you look at his best form, when Jota was in the team, Traore, when they had Doherty, I mean, that so many goals came from those players, assists, and he needs someone to start firing for him, so it's a challenge. I think they get the best out of him, because I think he was best with the likes of Jota beside him, but he's a top centre forward. He just might need something just to go in, a little, who knows, could be a little scruffy goal just to get him going again. Exciting game coming up, and you're listening to Premier League Live.
It's the ultimate fusion of football and celebrity. The Best 11 podcast from Talk Sport. Johnny Owen and Mark Webster interview the biggest names in popular culture.
Looking back at the role the beautiful game has played in their lives.
Paul Weller. Could I just start off apologising for last weekend?
Actor Stephen Graham. Good morning, Stevie.
Morning. Sharing their earliest football memories.
How they celebrated their team's successes.
Culminating in their all-time best 11.
Noel Gallagher.
Let's deal with the hangover and let's have it again after that.
The Best 11 podcast. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Tom Rennie. Join me for a weekly podcast, Week in the Tackle, available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to be joined by Brian Dunseth, MLS legend, to tackle the biggest stories from the week in soccer.
And the great thing about working with Tom and making Week in the Tackle is we're only going to be covering things we think are worth tackling.
This show is all about passion. What's going to get us riled up? What's going to get you riled up to give us all something to chew on?
We're not here to sit on the fence and tell you the stories of the day. That's what your phone's for. You'll be scrolling through Twitter while listening anyways.
Exactly. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. I'll save you the trouble. It is all bad news. This show is about tackling all the news of the week, giving our take on why it's interesting and why we think you should know it.
Who should be sacked? Who should be bought? Who should be sold? Who was right? Who was wrong?
Strong opinion, big stories, no agenda.
Week in the Tackle is available on Mondays from wherever you get your podcasts. If it's a big story in soccer, we'll tackle it.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sport? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the Talk Sport Hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
An improvement week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the Talk Sport Hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Cleared off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ellen White is there to tap it
The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lana Cleland striking from outside the penalty area.
And the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley. And Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nations' international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with the strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly Podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Premier League Live. We are looking ahead to a really exciting Premier League clash between Wolves, who are desperate for points and are yet to get their first goal, and Manchester United, who give first Premier League starts to both Rafael Varane and Jadon Sancho. Sancho has come on as a sub for United in the English top flight, but he is yet to start. He will do that today. We've already had a couple of games in the Premier League today. We brought you Burnley against Leeds, alongside an intriguing game in North London between Tottenham and Watford. Here was the action.
Chance for Harry Kane straight away, who's been bundled over by a Thibaut. Big shout certainly from the Tottenham fans for a penalty. That was clumsy from a Thibaut.
Certainly clumsy from a Thibaut, definitely. Fortunate to get away with it.
Son has counted in. Well, I'm not sure he was deliberately going for goal, Son, but that is the outcome. And some way to mark his 200th Premier League appearance. Son, from the free kick that maybe shouldn't have been a free kick, was just trying to put it into the danger zone in the 6-yard box, and it sails beyond backman and into the corner of goal.
Yeah.
Tottenham 1, Watford 0.
30 minutes to go. McNeil puts it in there to Tarkowski. He's hit the bar. Headed away by Cooper. Now it drops. It's gone in. Melier. What a nightmare for him. And Chris Wood nets against his former side. The first shot on target in the game. And it was Butterfingers, Illan Melier, who shoveled it into his own net. Burnley 1, Leeds 0. Into the box, and it's driven in. Mee blocks, comes back up to Shackleton. It's in. It's Patrick Bamford, a former Leeds striker, scoring against Leeds, netting against the Clarets. We are level here with 5 minutes to go, and 1-1.
So Tottenham have won all 3 of their games in the Premier League so far under Nuno, and they've won them all by 1-0. Let's get a bit more meat on the bone about this latest victory with our commentator Alex Crook.
Tottenham 1, Watford 0. It wasn't a vintage performance from Nuno Espirito Santo's side, but enough to claim top spot in the Premier League heading into the international break. 3 wins from 3 now, courtesy of Son's fortuitous free kick 3 minutes before half-time. It was a cross into the penalty area that deceived everybody in the Watford defence, and the goalkeeper Daniel Bachmann sailing beyond the Austrian into the far corner. Watford had a lot of possession in the second half, but didn't really trouble Hugo Lloris in the Tottenham goal. And for the first time in the history of English football, Tottenham end the day top of the top flight. On the same day, Arsenal, their great North London rivals, are bottom. It finishes Tottenham 1, Watford 0.
Alex rubbing some salt into Arsenal wounds there. David Connolly, the former Wolves striker, alongside me. David, Tottenham have done ever so well so far. They were really compact against Manchester City, I thought. Rode their luck a little bit maybe at Molineux against Wolves, but it's impressive that they've ground out 3 wins on the spin under a new coach with all of the distraction of the Harry Kane saga in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. That sideshow, which obviously would have taken an awful lot of attention away from what was going on at that training ground. You know, obviously Nuno, I think, has been a really good signing for them. He's proven himself, I think, at Wolves to be a terrific manager, and he's brought that in. And when you listen to him talking about, you know, what's going on with Harry Kane, I think he said all the right things, played everything down, welcomed Harry back with open arms, and obviously brought him off the bench, started today. So yeah, I mean, they haven't conceded a goal yet, and obviously they did against Pacos in the Europa Conference League, but not in the league. And you know, they just keep going and building, you know, and obviously they're going to get stronger now. You know, sort of now Harry's back in the team and he builds up his fitness.
3 games for Watford. What have you made of them so far back at this level?
Well, you know, I thought Watford have given, you know, considering it is obviously they're a newly promoted team, as you know, it is normally very difficult as soon as you come up, you know, to get some results, but they've been in games. You think of the first one, I thought they were outstanding against Villa and they got off to a great start. I saw them against Brighton, but I didn't think they were particularly great, I've got to be honest. They didn't really lay a glove on them. So I think they'll give it a really good go this season. You know, they've got obviously Troy Deeney, that issue bubbling away in the background as well. A couple of days to go in the transfer window, and we'll see what will happen, you know. But they've made some additions, you know, Sissoko coming in, but maybe Hughes might be going out. So I think they'll give it a good go, but I think like all the promoted teams, you know, I think they'll find it hard.
It ended all square at Turf Moor as Leeds came from behind to get a 1-1 draw at Burnley. Let's get some detail from our commentator, James Fielden.
Yeah, finished at Turf Moor. Burnley 1, Leeds 1. A largely forgettable game, notably in the first half. Neither side having a shot on target, though the post was hit on a couple of occasions. In the second half, Burnley took the lead, and it was the former Leeds striker Chris Wood who was able to convert close range after Leeds couldn't clear a corner a couple of times. It was put back in, and eventually Wood able to tap in from a couple of yards out for his first of the season. And it looked as though Burnley would hang on for their first home win in 214 days since the end of January when they beat Villa here. But it was their former striker Patrick Bamford that struck against them 4 minutes from time to see the away end erupt behind him as he converted from close range again after Burnley couldn't clear themselves. The easiest of finishes for the now England striker. A point apiece, both sides still winless this season, but we shall see what it does for them. At least they go into the international break with something to show for their efforts. It finishes here at Turf Moor. Burnley 1, Leeds 1.
David, you know that striker's position inside out. You look at Patrick Bamford, named in the England squads, got this late goal. He's been absolutely stellar since Leeds came back into the Premier League. What makes him so good, and what makes him different to a lot of other players?
Well, look, he's got wonderful technical ability. You know, he really has. His touch, his technique on his passing, his control, his movement. He's very balletic. He can finish, but he normally needs to be in a little bit of space. I had a really good look at him for sort of TalkSport, doing a scout report on him. Any sort of contact, you can put him off, and his finishing does let him down at times. But, I mean, there's been compilations of how poor his finishing was in the Championship, but, you know, he's managed to sort of restart, you know, reset now he's got promoted. I don't think he would have got a chance in the Premier League unless he'd have got promoted with Leeds. He was one of those players that, had to get promoted with the side. And everyone thought, well, why is he sticking with him? Why is Bielsa? Well, he's really intelligent. His movement's good. He works very hard. He's a focal point for them. You can play the ball up to him and he'll get hold of it, and set others, bring others into the game. His movement's good. He has got blistering pace, but that's not the be-all and end-all. And he's really improved his finishing, make no mistake.
We heard from James there about this rotten run that Burnley have been on at home. From a player's point of view, how much notice do players take of that? Is it something that becomes worse and worse and worse as it goes on, or do players just play the game as it comes?
Well, I think if you go to the Brighton game, first game of the season, they're 1-0 up, and they're absolutely dominating Brighton, especially on their set pieces. Such a threat. They had another one, I think, disallowed, but they looked so good. 1-0 up, looked like it could have been 2-0, and Brighton got back into it second half. So they gave it a really good go there back at Turf Moor. And I think, if you look at the Liverpool game, obviously that was going to be a tough one. Today, I don't think we read too much into it. They're 1-0 up, and obviously they've got a late goal there. But it's important that Chris Wood has got off the score sheet, and I think they'll be fine. I really do. I think they're always maligned, much maligned, Burnley. But got a top manager. They kind of operate on a bit of a shoestring budget. Give them a bit more cash, and I think they'll be absolutely fine.
The new Wolves signing Hee-Chan Hwang being introduced to the Molineux faithful and getting a round of applause. Hasn't worked out for him recently, but hoping to kickstart his career once again in England. Let's hear from the two managers ahead of this one. Bruno Lage of Wolves and Manchester United's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Every game is an opportunity to do that. So, like I said, it was after these two games against two opponents, Leicester and Tottenham, we are confident about the way we play. We are unhappy because we create a lot of chances and we score, and no points for us. But this is our work. We need to continue to play like that, to create a lot of chances, because I believe the way we create chances, we will score more goals. And in my way to play, my way to work, my philosophy is to do that. We need to create chances. That's why every day I say to my players, we are an attacking team. We need to create chances, and for sure the goals will come.
When you have the disappointment of losing 2 points last week, you won a game straight away. Start of the season has been a little bit different than last year. We had loads of games early on. Now we've had a week in between, so we're training well, and I think the boys are ready.
The Premier League is about top players, and Cristiano Ronaldo is top of the top, so very good to I think, for Premier League and for him to return for this competition. He already have his name on the competition, but now he can improve.
Cristiano has been a legend of this club. He is a legend of this club. He's the greatest player of all time, if you ask me. I was fortunate enough to play with him. I coached him. Such a tremendous human being as well. Everyone who's played with him, I think, have a soft spot for him.
Cristiano Ronaldo back in the Premier League, back in English football, and David Connolly, how much of a boost is that, not just for Manchester United but for the Premier League in general?
Yeah, I mean, just listening to Ollie there, obviously I haven't had the pleasure of playing with him, but when I was at Sunderland, Roy Keane, the manager, brought a lot of the staff over from Man United, and obviously a lot of the lads, right, what's Ronaldo like? Give us the lowdown on him. And like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says there, his work ethic, his endeavour, his dedication to his craft, getting every sinew possible that he could out of himself and his body, his preparation, his attention to detail, improving every facet of his game. And Ole knows that, he's bringing him in for his ability on the pitch, but obviously he'll be a leader on it and off it, and he'll bring so much, that he's back, I guess, home. They helped make him a man, and Sir Alex Ferguson, etc., was that sort of father figure for him, and I think it's great. I think it's a great bit of business, make no mistake, and it's a superb signing.
It's an interesting debate opening up about Mason Greenwood, because he started the season ever so well. He's scored in both Premier League games so far this season. Does Ronaldo coming in block his progress, or does it give him an incredible role model, and in the fullness of time it'll prove to be really beneficial for him?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's nothing's going to be better than playing. You're not going to improve sitting on the sidelines, so but whether he can, there's different ways he can get in the team, right? He can get in the team out wide on the left, but so can Mason if Ronaldo's down through the middle. There's various ways if they wanted to play a 2. Look, I'm sure Ollie has got a plan for him, and Ollie as a striker, he will know there'll be times when certain strikers need to play and when they'll need to come on, and the likes of Mason Greenwood has done really well when he's come off the bench and made an impact. So no matter what it is, I think there's no way that they could turn down the opportunity to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, and if it does hinder Mason in any way, I think it'll be pretty short term.
It's not just attacking players that they've brought in, they've also brought in Raphael Varane to play alongside Harry Maguire. You would think, David, that will be their first choice pairing going forward. And Varane, a guy who's won the World Cup with France, he's won 4 Champions Leagues with Real Madrid, he's won 15 major honours as a Real Madrid player. What a signing to make. Absolutely,
and I'm just really looking forward, because you see these players, you might see clips of them, but it's only really when you sit down and watch them for 90 minutes over a sustained period you have the pleasure of really appreciating them. So yeah, he looks like a terrific sign. I think they've strengthened him in all the areas that they need to, and obviously there's still a place for players like Dan James. He's good Euros, he's got pace about him. Are they going to play with 1 holder or 2 holders this season? There might be times where they could play 3 at the back, as they've done at times, with Luke Shaw in there as a left-sided centre-back, or Lindelof or whatever, So I think the signing of Varane, as well as all the other stuff they've got, all the other players, gives them those options. Lingard had a great end of season, didn't he, at West Ham? So, there's plenty of options for Ollie.
As I mentioned, Hee-Chan Hwang was introduced to the Molineux crowd. He signed on loan from RB Leipzig. He's a rather quick forward. He's had a tough time with COVID-19 actually, but he's hoping that now he's back to full fitness he can make an impact. Where are the goals coming from for Bruno Lage's Wolves in the long term? Yeah, I mean, if you look at the chances they've spurned already against Leicester, against Spurs, Adama Traore was kind of, largely at fault for those missed chances, and he's not a natural finisher, we know that, but his pace and his power and his ability will get him away and get him into goal scoring situations, but will he take them consistently? That's the issue for him. So it'll be up to the likes of Raul Jimenez, Trincao. He's been signed to get goals, that's why you play him in a front 3. So, they're not blessed with goals from anywhere else. Moutinho might bang one in from distance, same with Neves, but Marcel, Semedo, they're not going to get them. Centre-halves might hit set pieces, so an awful lot's going to come down to that front 3. Yeah, the pressure is on for both sides. Manchester United know that with the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool and Manchester City all eyeing the Premier League title, they simply cannot afford too many slip-ups this season. They've already dropped points at Southampton in a game that many people expected them to win. As for Wolves, they just want to get on the scoreboard. If they lose again today, then they are suddenly without any points from the first 3 games. Exciting game in prospect. You're listening to Premier League Live.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sport? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the Talk Sport Hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
An improvement week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the Talk Sport Hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Talk Sport. 20 years old and still not able to make a cup of tea.
That's a great starting point, I think. Excuse me.
With bitter experience comes great responsibility.
Let's go to Cumbria and Fraser. Fraser, good morning. Hello. Fraser, get out of that lane.
The nation's first and best commercial sports radio station.
Live, lubricated and legendary.
20 years of Talk Sport.
Previously on White and Jordan.
This is rewarding mediocrity. No, it's not. It's the exact opposite.
2 towering giants of sports media.
He's got COVID-19. He's got Newcastle wanting to sue him. He's got broadcasters pulling money out of deals left, right and centre. You wouldn't want to fly with this guy, would you?
Jim White and Simon Jordan.
Double trouble, daily drama and searing debate.
Continues weekday mornings from 10 on Talk Sport.
20 years of Talk Sport.
Gentlemen, good evening.
There's no such thing as an overnight success. Excess.
Accrington Stanley 4, Titanium Plasmatronic Death Droids from the Future 0.
Excess.
I wasn't getting up, I was just getting in.
Excitement.
Excuse me, Alan.
And extremely strong opinions.
I spend my life covering the big game at the big level.
On DAB, medium wave, and on your smart speaker. 20 years of talk sport.
Previously on White and Jordan.
If you haven't bought, owned, managed, sold a player, managed a football club, sat in a boardroom, sat in a dressing room, what exactly do you know?
100% engagement.
The Football League is a league which is a busted flush.
You're obsessed with that subject. You do know that.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. High Octane Radio continues weekday mornings from 10 on Talk Sport.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Beat off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ellen Wright is there to tap it in.
The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lana Clellan striking from outside the penalty area.
And the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley. And Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nations' international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with the strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly Podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to TalkSport's coverage of Wolverhampton Wanderers against Manchester United from Molineux. I'm your host and match commentator, Kevin Hatchard. Alongside me, the former Wolves striker, David Connolly. This is Premier League Live. So Wolves without a point so far this season, beaten 1-0 by both Leicester away from home and Tottenham here at Molineux. As for Manchester United, they've taken 4 points from their first 2 games, 5-1 winners against Leeds United and then held to a 1-1 draw at Southampton. So David Connolly, the pressure is on both teams and both managers.
Yeah, it is. I mean, just looking at that bench for Man United, wow, it's strong, isn't it? You know, it really is. They've got options all over the pitch, front, middle and back, and I guess for Wolves, if goals are going to come, it's probably going to come from those that are starting. Obviously, young Fabio Silva on the bench, Daniel Podence, who did well in the Cup against Forest, so a couple of options there if they do need to change it.
Let's go through the teams for you. Wolves with Jose Sarr in goal, Romain Saiz, Conor Cody and Max Kilman the back three, Marsala and Nelson Semedo the wing back, João Moutinho and Ruben Neves in midfield. The front three of Adama Traore, Raúl Jiménez and Francisco Trincao. Manchester United with David De Gea in goal, Harry Maguire and Rafael Varane the centre backs, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Luke Shaw at full back, Fred and Paul Pogba in central midfield, and a front four of Jadon Sancho, Bruno Fernandes, Daniel James and Mason Greenwood. So first taste of Premier League football for Rafael Varane, a player that Manchester United tried to sign a decade ago when he was a young prospect at Lens. He went to Real Madrid instead and went on to win the lot. The players take the knee ahead of kick-off, a symbol in the ongoing battle against discrimination. We're underway in the West Midlands. Manchester United playing from left to right in this first period in their new away strip of white, blue and red shirts and blue shorts. Wolves in the traditional old gold shirts, black shorts and old gold socks, attacking the goal away to the left-hand side. David, how bold do you think Wolves will be in the opening exchanges? Because Bruno Lage by nature is a front foot coach.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'll have to temper that. You can see a lot of the results. So many teams obviously facing heavy defeats so far this season that I think it'll have to be a little bit cautious as well. You concede one, you concede two. We saw in the Cup, but then if you saw any of the Cup results for those listeners who are away, this Premier League teams hammering lower division sides by 6 and 8s and things like that. And obviously that is the firepower that you have in the Premier League. Just ask Arsenal.
Wolves won 4-0 against Nottingham Forest in midweek in the League Cup. Early surge here from Ruben Neves out to Trincao, who's a box of tricks on that right-hand side. Broke through at Braga in Portugal, and that tempted Barcelona to bring him in. But Barcelona needed to shift players out to try and balance the books. And he's ended up in the Premier League and wants to shine. Ball played long down the right-hand side by Manchester United towards Daniel James, who had such a good European Championship with Wales. Speedy player that's becoming more and more important for this Manchester United team. A Manchester United team that's going to have Cristiano Ronaldo added to it soon. His return to Old Trafford has been confirmed. Things moved fairly quickly. It was confirmed that he was leaving Juventus. He was heavily linked with Manchester City. Then United brought him in. Early run here from Jadon Sancho. Scampering infield. Ball breaks for Fred. Works it to the edge of the area for Daniel James. Inside right channel. Out to Wan-Bissaka. Up from right back. Plays it back infield to the edge of the area for Sancho. Jabs it to James. Sancho again. United trying to pick their way through, and the ball was given away cheaply. And here's Adama Traore on the move, and he's got options. Traore surging towards the penalty area. Rolls it into the box. Jimenez with the shot. Kicked away by De Gea. It might drop for Traore, and he just couldn't bring the ball under his spell. But that's the first test for David De Gea, and the first clear sight of goal from Raul Jimenez.
Yes, I would say he hasn't really struck that ball with much conviction though, Kevin. I mean, he's sort of side-footed it. It's a brilliant run from Traore, breaking from deep, and I think Fred's got to take one for the team here and bring him down. Instead he doesn't, allows him to carry the ball right to the edge of the box. He makes the right decision. They're 2v2 here. The two Wolves forwards, Traore and Jimenez against Varane and Maguire. Slips it to the right to Raul Jimenez, and rather than really putting his laces through it and smashing it, he went with his side foot, and in the end it was a sort of comfortable save really.
It's the 43rd goal attempt they've had already in the Premier League this season, Wolves. They are yet to score. The ball is with the vastly experienced central midfielder João Moutinho. It is his 100th Premier League start today. Moutinho is 34 now, and he is still an integral part of this Wolves side. But what we did see, David, was an early glimpse of the pace of Adama Traore.
Yeah, but you know, leaving yourselves 2v2 is a bit of a gamble for United, but also just coming back to that finish, it is on the angle. He is like 14 yards out, and he's gone with his instep, you know, Raul Jimenez, which is highly unusual. I mean, the probability of scoring from there is, well, zero. Very strange for a striker of his calibre. You know, maybe he just needs a little bit more time really to get up to speed.
Worth bearing in mind that Jimenez fractured his skull in a collision with Arsenal's David Luiz in November last year. He then needed life-saving surgery, says he doesn't remember the incident.
I remember it, Kevin. I was commentating on it for us. It was awful. David Luiz basically going ahead of a ball coming in from a corner. Instead he headed Raul's head. It was awful.
It's a frightening moment for all concerned, but thankfully he is back on the pitch, and he'll be part of a Wolves team that has to defend this corner that Manchester United have just won. Luke Shaw making inroads down the left-hand side. Wolves had to react.
Well, I was just going to say, just moments before Wolves broke, that how United are lining up with Pogba and Fred as two holding midfield players, if that's going to be the case, to get the best out of Pogba's passing from a deeper area, means if he is going to push on that high with Fred, they're going to be so bare at the back. They're going to have to really temper that at times.
So, corner kick for Manchester United with nearly 5 minutes gone on Premier League Live. It's Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. Whipped in by Shaw. It's a good ball in, but very well dealt with. And now Ruben Neves with his long dark hair playing it forwards, and not the best of clearances by Fred. He's hit it straight to Trincao. Trincao will take him on, and he'll burst into the area. Big chance here. Cleared on the goal line brilliantly, and then Trincao tried to keep it alive. And Manchester United survive. What a run by Francisco Trincao, but he couldn't find the finish.
It's another brilliant break. I mean, what a goal line block. I think it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka just cleared it off the line and stopped a certain goal there. Brilliant play from Trincao, but again, Man United just leaving himself bare.
It's a fantastic start from Wolverhampton Wanderers, but they don't have the goal, and that's a running theme at the moment for them under Bruno Lage, who took over at the start of the season. Here is Shaw surging forwards. It didn't quite break for Bruno Fernandes, and it's cleared at full stretch. Now Traore trying to hold the ball up. The barrel-chested Spanish international. Twisting and turning under pressure from Pogba. He has to go back to Marçal. Midway inside the Wolves half on the near side there left. Here is Ruben Neves, such a lovely player to watch, such an ease about his game, and he finds Semedo. Back to Trincao. Trincao says he's the kind of player that wants to give fans a reason to buy tickets, and David, that's exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah, terrific run, and he had the confidence to take on Fred. I think once he took him down the line, Fred tried to bring him down in the box, and he stayed on his feet, which was, it looked like the right decision, but it was just a terrific goal line block, I think, for Wan-Bissaka.
There were a couple of mistakes from Fred in that passage of play, a player that does divide opinion. Here is Bruno Fernandes moving into space, right foot shot, not one of his best. It skitters wide of the far post, and as you can hear from the reaction of the home fans, they absolutely love that.
Yeah, just dragged it wide, but here we go, that sort of through ball, which was potentially half cleared but badly by Fred, straight to Trincao, takes him on, breaks into the box, and he's just picked his spot, and it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka with an unbelievable goal line clearance there. I mean, the ball has beaten De Gea, it's nestling in the far corner, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka has run in behind De Gea and just put the longest leg on the end of it, managed to clear it off the line. Absolutely outstanding defending.
For all of the criticism he sometimes gets about his attacking play, Wan-Bissaka is a pure defender. Here is Traore skipping away from Fred. He's enjoying himself so far. Right foot shot, and that's comfortable for David De Gea, falling low to his right to make a save, but it is 0-0 in the 8th minute, and Wolves are on top.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the cleanest connection, in fairness. It might come off the heel of Maguire, but as he's steaming on the diagonal here from left to right, Traore, he's got the overlapping run of Nelson Semedo, and he's got to give it to him. And then Semedo can break into the box and shoot from a lot closer. Instead, Traore takes the shot on from a good 20 yards out. Comfortable save for De Gea.
He's already had 11 shots in the Premier League this season. Traore missed a big chance against Spurs in a 1-0 defeat here last weekend. He was clean through. Hugo Lloris with the save.
See, his qualities get him those chances, maybe that other players wouldn't. It's just that actual ability to finish, you know, it's so hard to do. If it's not your natural game, you know.
Here's Wan-Bissaka down the right-hand side for Manchester United. Drifts the ball into the area, and that's comfortable for Jose Sarr, who is the new first-choice goalkeeper at Wolves, replacing Rui Patricio, who made the move to join Jose Mourinho at Roma. Jose Sarr, a former Olympiacos goalkeeper, won a couple of Greek titles with the Athens Giants. He's already made 9 saves this season in the Premier League, so he's made a good start. Jimenez with a really poor pass straight to Greenwood in the Wolves half. Greenwood into Bruno Fernandes, who is clattered into by the Wolves skipper Conor Cody, who protests his innocence, but that was a free kick every day of the week.
Yeah, just as the central one of the back three there, Cody had to come out and engage. Bruno as the number 10. He has followed through on him. I don't know what he's complaining about there, because all day long that is a free kick.
Defenders always complain,
yeah.
David, you know that.
They do.
It's exactly what David would have loved as a striker,
well,
centre-back complaining after bringing him to the grounds.
Oh, we've seen a couple, and we saw Jacques has obviously challenged, you know, yesterday, and, you know, you've just got to be careful, and you've got to be so careful these days. And I think obviously the referee under instructions to let games flow when they can, but anything from behind or from the side, you know, making contact is always going to be given.
Some of the travelling United fans holding up a cardboard cutout of Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, they've stolen Mikel Antonio's celebration there for West Ham.
Set off a trend. Here is Fernandes with the free kick straight into the wall. Ball loops up in the air. Maguire goes for it and wins the header. Attempted overhead kick, and Daniel James with the shot, and it took a flick off Greenwood, and it goes wide off the far post. 10 minutes gone. Wolves 0, Manchester United 0.
Yeah, free kick. The wall jumped here, and they had to, and then Maguire, as it sort of drifting up into the air, gets his head on it. Attempted overhead from Greenwood was never on. Ball bounces to Dan James on the right hand side on the angle. I don't think it's on to shoot there. I think when you've got everyone up in the box, the likes of Maguire, you just got to cross that back in.
Here is Max Kilman, who started all 3 of the Premier League games this season for Wolves. Former Maidenhead player.
He's done well, hasn't he, Kevin Kilman? I mean, he started last season as well, you know, so what an achievement coming from Maidenhead.
Coming from the English non-league, so he's done a terrific job acclimatising to this level.
Well, I don't mean achievement as in coming from Maidenhead, but as in playing for Maidenhead and now playing in Premier.
But to settle in once you've made the move as quickly as he has is hugely impressive. Of course, as we know, certain Jamie Vardy came from non-league and he's done pretty well with Leicester, and there are many examples of that. Here is Traore surging forward. It's a brilliant run. Adama Traore, Jimenez onto his right foot, shot deflected and hooked away by Fred. But every time Traore gets the ball, Manchester United look nervous.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's up against Wan-Bissaka here, just out-muscles him, shrugs him off. Eventually Wan-Bissaka thinks, I've got to make a diving lunge on him, gets past him, just goes past Fred like he's not there. Shovels it out to Jimenez, who's just pulled onto the left-hand side of the box, takes it back in field though, onto his right foot. And really, that's where all the players are. If they had a natural left footer there, maybe if that was Neto, he might have just banged that with his left peg, I don't know, but you know, he's had a really good start, Traore. My worry for United is every time Traore is faced up with the likes of Fred, he just goes past him like he's not even there. Fred can't get anything on him, and that's your shield in front of your two centre halves.
Well, Traore at the moment has been temporarily stopped because he's got a problem with his boot, so he's just readjusting that. He's very much a favourite of these Wolves fans. Great to have so many thousands of fans back at Molineux, and indeed back at grounds across the country and across Europe.
Well, it's tough if you're Aaron Wan-Bissaka, because he's tried to get tight to him a couple of times, and he obviously must know now the sort of customer he's up against, how to deal with him. Maybe don't get so tight, give yourself a yard against Traore.
All three of Wolves' goal attempts have been on target so far. United still looking for their first test for Jose Sarr.
It's a great start. Good start, Kevin, isn't it, from Wolves?
Marcel's cross from the left-hand side. It's a booming cross to that far side, and the header down was a really poor one, given away so cheaply, and it's put over the top by João Moutinho. It was an awkward chance, a half volley, which flies over the top, and I think it was Jadon Sancho who gave the ball away really cheaply.
Yeah, I don't know what he's trying to do here. Head the ball back to Luke Shaw. I mean, he's almost in his 6-yard box, and eventually then it's played back into the box. Moutinho with the volley, as you say, a couple of yards out, not really renowned for his goals. He'd probably be disappointed with that, although he probably saw it late.
Yeah, dropped just at an awkward height for him. But he is a player of supreme technique, we know that. But as David quite rightly says, he is not a regular goal scorer. 14th minute, Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. But Wolves carrying the greater goal threat at the moment. They scored 4 without reply in the League Cup in midweek, but they have found goals hard to come by, not just this season but last season as well. They only scored 36 goals in 38 league games in the last campaign. Ball given away to Jadon Sancho. Early ball to Greenwood. Greenwood has it swept away from him very quickly. Wolves defending aggressively. Something predicted by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Said from what he's seen of Wolves, they're more aggressive and progressive under Bruno Lage, maybe a bit more reactive under Nuno. Forward comes Raphael Varane, player from the very top draw when it comes to centre-backs. World Cup winner with France, 4-time Champions League winner with Real Madrid.
Well, just looking at him in possession here, I mean, he's played a couple of passes into Pogba, and Pogba's directing him to give it back to Harry Maguire square, and he's going, you know what, no, you know, I'll make my own mind up here. And he spent a lot of time on the ball, just giving it and getting it, giving it and getting it, looking for the right pass, the right angle, sign of real confidence there, and that's what you want.
He's had years of Sergio Ramos barking at him, so he's probably quite happy to have a situation where he can maybe set the tone once or twice. Here is Jose Sarr, the Wolves goalkeeper, all in hot pink tonight. Certainly wouldn't miss him on a dark night. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in his 100th Premier League game as United boss, and his side has made a mixed start to this season. They were disappointing at Southampton last weekend, drew 1-1. Could have lost that game had David De Gea not made a really good save late on. That was against the side that's been struggling in Southampton. Here is Varane.
It almost reminds me of, you know, PSG and Pochettino, when Poch said, you know, I've got all these star names and I need to make a team out of them. And you just look at Man Utd, Ronaldo coming into it as well. You know, he's got to make a team, and you can have all the attacking talent you want, which they do have. You know, I just wonder when they turn the ball over, they've looked very open here against Wolves.
It is about balance, and as David says, that's what Paris will have to try and achieve with Messi and Neymar. Perhaps Mbappe, we'll see. Here is Wan-Bissaka. Back it goes to Greenwood, inside right channel, midway inside the Wolves half. Back to Fred, who's scored a goal and an own goal so far this season. Here is Shaw up from left back, excellent for England at the European Championship. He plays it to Jadon Sancho, and the flag goes up. David, Jadon Sancho so good in the Bundesliga for Borussia Dortmund over the past few years. You look at his records. A couple of seasons ago, 17 goals and 16 assists in the league. He got 8 goals and 11 assists last season and had some injury problems as well. He was absolutely stellar in the early part of 2021. He helped Dortmund win the DFB Cup, which is the German version of the FA Cup. Will he hit the ground running, do you think, in England, or will it take a while to adjust?
Well, you imagine he'll hit it running. You know, just there, Luke Shaw, I think, took a touch on that pass that came to him, and by the time he then played it forward to Sancho, he'd already made the run, so he was offside. And, you know, that relationship will take time to build. You know, that relationship you have with your fullback is so important as a wide man, but, you know, Luke's a top player as well, so... Yeah, I'm sure he'll be fine, Jadon. I'm sure he'll show what a good player he is.
Raul Jimenez is down, just caught there. He's been in the thick of the action so far. He said when he came back to training after that fractured skull, he said nobody was allowed to make any contact with him, so he felt like the best player in the world because he could dribble past everyone with no problem. So coming back to a proper game was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, that sounds like a dream training, doesn't it? 5-a-side, but no one can touch you.
You'd take that, wouldn't you, Davis?
Oh yeah. You'll have a long career if you could do that every day.
He did say he enjoyed the physical part of it when he come back to actual football. He is the kind of player that loves being in the thick of it, and he's shown great bravery to come back when you bear in mind how serious his injury was. And he was caught by Fred, so he's won this free kick. Trincao is over it, potentially for the left-footed delivery, an in-swinger. We're in the 19th minute at Molineux, Premier League Live. It's 0-0. Trincao steps over it. João Moutinho's ball in. It's a poor one, headed away by Bruno Fernandes. Portuguese player took the free kick. Another Portuguese player got the ball clear. And here's another one with Nelson Semedo. Drives it long, too long, and the ball goes out to play for a goal kick. Of course, Wolves do have such a large Portuguese presence. And in their Premier League history, they've had more goals scored by Portuguese players than English ones, which is a remarkable statistic. But it's something that's really worked for them, David.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, no doubt agents involved in that. But yeah,
one in particular.
Yes, one in particular. Just going back to that ball from Nelson Semedo, I think he's especially one player who hasn't really replaced Matt Doherty. But, you know, when he plays that ball over the top, you know, he's got to take a little bit of weight off it, like a pitching wedge on a golf course. Instead, he's driven it like it's down the fairway and it's gone straight off the pitch. You know, he just needs to be a bit better there.
Nice touch by Bruno Fernandes in the tight space to get away from Jimenez. Now it's with the imposing figure of Harry Maguire. He's another player that was excellent for England at the European Championship. England beaten in the final by Italy on penalties. Here is Daniel James. It's a good run, and then he's crunched by Saiz fairly, says Mike Dean, our referee. Now it's Trincao. Skips away from Luke Shaw. They're going to love him here, Trincao. And Shaw brings him down. When he was at Braga, he absolutely sparkled. It didn't quite happen for him at Barcelona. Trincao, he was a regular substitute, but this is a chance for him to really shine this season in the Premier League.
Yeah, he just dropped off deep in and around the halfway line and played a little nutmeg. He saw Luke Shaw coming, played it through his legs, skipped round the other side, and I guess his style, I'm just trying to look at his style, I'd say it's kind of a bit like a Dwight McNeil sort of style, you know, in terms of he's a real lefty, can drift in off that wide area, but he's got obviously brilliant ball ability. He's obviously ghosted past United whenever he wanted so far.
And that is what he loves to do, come in off that right hand side onto the left foot. It'll be Ruben Neves to take the free kick short to Moutinho. Back out to Ruben Neves, who's only missed 5 Premier League games since Wolves won promotion back in 2018. Here's Connor Cody, captain. He's only missed 1. Now it's Pogba, quiet so far, but he drives it long over the top looking for James. James manages to hook the ball in field, keeps it in play, but gives the ball away to Saiss. 21 minutes gone here on Premier League Live. It remains Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. Ball is nodded down for Jimenez, wearing a protective headband. He's tried a few versions of that headband, says it's getting closer to what he wants, but still not 100%. Wants something that's not going to affect his heading ability, but is going to protect him. Spoken a lot to Petr Cech, the former Chelsea goalkeeper, who had a very similar injury and ended up wearing a protective helmet, if you like. It's a lovely flick by Traoré down the left-hand side for Marçal. Marçal's cross is charged down by Fred, and that's going to be a corner for Wolves. But there's a buzz around this stadium, David, every time Traoré's anywhere near the ball.
Yeah, lovely little flick here, and he goes again. And Marçal, we haven't really seen him venture forward too often. That's the first time he's tried to put a ball into the box. Good covering across, though, from Fred. And they've looked sparkling when the ball's gone forward, Wolves. They really have. Very bright.
Connor Cody up from the back, just screaming at João Moutinho. Trying to give him some kind of sign.
I think that means don't play it. He's got his hand like, stop, wait for us. This is obviously set up off the training ground, so they need time to get the setup right. He's giving him the nod, so it's ready to go now.
It's got to be a good corner now. And it's driven with pace and headed away by Varane. Picked up now by Marçal, who played in Lyon's Champions League quarter-final win over Manchester City a couple of seasons ago. Here is Trincao again, onto that left foot. Finds Neves, 30 yards out, whips it into the area, and the header is wide of the target from the captain Cody, who stayed up from the original set piece.
Yeah, I just wondered how Trincao could have put the cross in, and this sometimes concerns me if you're a striker when you're playing with wingers not on their natural side, because whenever they get it, their first thought is to cut in field and either get a shot off or cross from a different sort of angle, and it's normally when you cut in, normally favours the defenders. So Raul Jimenez, I don't know how that's really going to work out for him. He wants to know that ball gets out to Trincao, it's coming in the box. That is not going to be the case.
It's going to take a while for the Wolves attack to settle down. They're playing with such aggression here. As the ball is won by Semedo, played into Jimenez, lays it off for Moutinho. Moutinho to Traoré in the penalty area, inside left channel, chips it towards the penalty spot, and that's put behind by Maguire, who wants an offside from earlier in the move, but that flag never came, and it will be a Wolves corner, and they keep on pushing.
Yeah, they do. I mean, Moutinho's given the ball to Traoré's feet here, but what he wanted was a little darting run in behind. Traoré didn't see the run, he didn't know what to do, so received it to feet, cut back in, had to put a cross in the box from an easier position, and then Maguire's put it out for a corner.
So an opportunity for Wolves to put the pressure on. Cody and Saiss are loitering with intent near the penalty spot. Kilman's up as well, so all three centre-backs are forward here for Wolverhampton Wanderers. It'll be Moutinho again with an in-swinger right-footed. This time he plays it short. Back out to Moutinho. Stands it up towards the far post. Towering header away by Harry Maguire, and the clearance is completed by Fred. Not very far. Again, aggressive defending, this time from Semedo. They're not allowing United time for breath here, and then Jadon Sancho with a rather lazy challenge that gives away the free kick.
Yeah, probably a little bit of frustration there from Sancho. Whenever he's had the ball so far, he hasn't really done a lot with it. Made the little header back into his own box, which resulted in a Moutinho chance, and he was offside at the other end, and a little foul there. So
I'm always loath to use the word lazy, but it was lazy in the sense that he had the option to run with his man, didn't he? And instead it was just a little push to give away a very cheap free kick.
Absolutely.
And it is something Jadon's worked very, very hard at Borussia Dortmund in the last couple of years. His work without the ball, it's probably the weakest part of his game, as is the case with many attacking players. But it is something he has tried to work on. But this will be a potentially costly free kick. It's right out on the far touchline, the right. It'll be Moutinho to take again. That's a good delivery, and again Varane is there. He's been excellent in the air so far for Manchester United. Back in by Ruben Neves. Jimenez on the charge, and he's got there. Ahead of Varane, plays it to the far post, and it's just wide of the target. It was Roma Saiss, of all people, with a scissor kick, and the ball bounced agonisingly wide of the far post from a Wolves point of view.
Oh, this was so unlucky. Lovely little ball in the box here from Neves. Raul Jimenez, is he onside? It's tight, makes a terrific little darting run, gets there ahead of Varane, then tries to dink the ball to the back post. It's not quite high enough, so it falls on the volley for sides. Little scissor kick. He's more or less past the far post, so he's trying to angle it back into the far corner, but it's probably half a yard past that post. It's unlucky.
Bruno Lage will be delighted with what he's seen so far. He admits he didn't have the ability to make it as a footballer. He had been planning to become a PE teacher in Portugal before his father suggested he should become a coach. So he started working at his hometown club, Vitória Setúbal. And having led Benfica to the title, here he is in the Premier League. Here is Adama Traoré again. Down the left-hand side this time, his cross is poor, and that goes behind, but he is terrorising Manchester United at the moment. Just a bit more on Bruno Lage. He was promoted from the youth department when he was 42 by Benfica. He'd done some stellar work with them, led them to the title in his first season, but then resigned at the end of the following season. But he's somebody, David, that loves to play attacking football. In his work with guys like João Felix, he can develop excellent young talent.
Yeah, absolutely, but he's not afraid to use some of the experience that Wolves have got. So they've got a lot of that. You know, those players, vast experience in Europe, and you know, he's another one a bit like Mourinho, I guess. He was from Setúbal, wasn't he? I think Mourinho, I believe. So quite a few have been teachers before.
Yeah, well, I mean, the interesting thing about Mourinho, of course, is that he was working as a translator at one stage as well. So it shows that, you know, they do think about different roles, educational roles, and maybe can move across. And I think it's fair to say Mourinho did fairly well after that. In
Yes,
most places.
You wouldn't want
Tottenham fans might not agree.
You wouldn't mind being a pound behind him.
Here is Fred in midfield on the left-hand side, plays it into the feet of Jadon Sancho. Hasn't really clicked into gear yet, but that's not to say he won't. Played out to James, right corner of the penalty area, trying to go on the outside, low ball in, and it was awkward for Saiz, and he dealt with it ever so well, somehow managing to shovel that ball behind.
Yeah, if this was just cut back a little bit more from James. Brilliant switch of play from Bruno Fernandes. That is how to switch a ball. Semedo, take note. Dan James takes Marcelo down the line, tries to cut the ball across, but it's not quite cut back far enough, and actually Wolves recovered really well.
So corner kick from this near side the right, taken by Greenwood. It's a good ball in, and it was guided away brilliantly by Cody, who's so good in the air. Out to Pogba, he'll attack the box, plays it low to the edge of the area. The layoff from Sancho to Fernandes. Now Shaw lofts it to the far post, and that's comfortable for Jose Sarr, and here they go. Wolves on the counter with Trincao. Little stutter step up against Jadon Sancho, who would recognise that kind of move. And out it goes to Semedo, inside right channel, over halfway, approaching the half-hour mark at Molineux. And this place is rocking because Wolves are on top at the moment. Semedo. Now Paul Pogba just wagging his finger at Semedo, and they've knocked the ball out of play so that Bruno Fernandes can get some treatment. Of course, it's not up to Wolves to have to make that decision. It's down to the referee. He doesn't have to stop play.
Well, the Wolves fans aren't happy, are they? Because they know this isn't a head injury, so play shouldn't be brought back. I mean, there's a slight bit of contact maybe on Fernandes on his foot, but not a lot. And obviously Wolves are on the count, though. They've got the ball about 30 yards from the United goal there, and promising position.
It's down to Mike Dean to make the call, but in the end Wolves putting that ball out. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer coming to the edge of his technical area to talk to Aaron Wan-Bissaka and some of his other players. He's yet to win a major trophy as Manchester United boss. Closest he came was last season's Europa League final. United beaten on penalties by Villarreal in Gdansk. They've lost 4 semi-finals across the last couple of seasons. It's now 4 seasons without a trophy. It's the club's worst run since the 1980s. They did finish second last season, United. They were 12 points behind Manchester City, but if you look at the last 5 seasons, United have been behind the eventual champions 24 points, 19 points, 32, 33 and 12. And for a club of United's size, David, simply not good enough.
No, but I guess they've been overtaken, or you can't deny that. But as I said, the stats from last season, I think they're closer than those 12 points, because they had you know, obviously they had the Europa League final, which delayed them by a week. They started the season against Palace, who had already played and won against Southampton, and so they were slow starters, and obviously I think fatigued at the end. But in between, they weren't too far off.
The influence of Sir Alex Ferguson still being felt at the football club. He was part of the collective effort to try and persuade Cristiano Ronaldo to rejoin Manchester United. Rio Ferdinand, Patrice Evra, Bruno Fernandes and Solskjaer all involved in trying to make sure that Ronaldo didn't go anywhere near Manchester City. And City quickly disappeared from that race when it became obvious that United had succeeded. Ball chested down by Traoré to Jimenez. Over the top, that's too long, and David De Gea, all in black and grey this evening, comes and gets the ball. It's 0-0.
It was unlucky though. Long ball up to Traoré, good hold-up play, sets it back to Jimenez and spins him behind. You think, you know, a little bit off that, take a little bit of pace off that pass. Nice link-up though between those two.
Wolves did lose home and away against United last season. They've only won one of the last 8 Premier League games against them. Given away by Pogba. He's trying to play with the outside of his right boot out to the far side, the left, but easily cut out by Wolves there. Here's Kilman under a bit of pressure. Back it goes to Jose Sarr, and he lofts it long down the centre, brought down by Varane under no pressure. They're not pressing Wolves here at the moment.
I think Sarr's done well, the Wolves keeper. He's looked really confident. Every time a ball is floated into the box, you know, if he can, he comes for it, claims it and sets Wolves on the attack. He's had a good start.
He's a player that faced English opposition quite a lot last season with Olympiacos, faced both Manchester City and Arsenal in European competition. Bit of space here for Greenwood in the penalty area on the left-hand side. Back to Fernandes. Now it's Jadon Sancho. Sancho being trapped by Ruben Neves. He goes to Shaw, tight to the left touchline. Back to Sancho.
He's just pushed further and further away from goal though there.
Let's get long towards Shaw. Always looking to get forward Luke Shaw. Now Greenwood. And he ran into Kilman, I felt, rather than the other way round. He's gone down in a heap, and the referee says that's okay, no case to answer. Here's Sancho, tenaciously winning the ball down the left-hand side for Manchester United, who are being held 0-0 at Molineux by an energised and dangerous Wolves team. And they've just won the ball back of Wolves, and it's with Cody. Forward to Ruben Neves. Neves in a pocket of space in midfield, out to the former Barcelona player Nelson Semedo, up from right back. Here is Neves again, and he guns that ball back to Connor Cody. Wolves are generally slow starters at this level. In 116 Premier League games since they returned to the top flight, they failed to score a first half goal in 83 of them. But you couldn't accuse them of a slow start this evening. And here goes Traoré, and his cross is blocked by Raphael Varane. And that's going to be another corner for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, really nice variation here from Traoré. Right-footed, but he is operating in and around this left-hand channel. But he's taken the ball twice now down the line onto his left foot. Trusted himself. He's got another corner here. Good defending, good block, though, from Varane.
Cody up from the back again, just behind Jimenez. So there's a cluster of players there, and Saiss is now behind Jimenez. Lots of movement here. Played to the far post, headed away by Maguire. It's so useful to have centre-backs like Maguire and Varane, who are so imperious in the air.
And you just put him in a 6-yard zone. That's what Ollie's done here. Put him in a 6-yard zone. Different players man mark, but those two, if it goes over your head, Varane, there's Maguire in behind you. So they're the two that you've got to try and bypass somehow.
Here is Ruben Neves, played into the feet of Jimenez, tried to squeeze it through for Trincao, who'd for once come in off that right flank, but couldn't quite find him. Sancho's lost it to Ruben Neves, but he scampers back to try and make something happen, and Neves sticks to him like glue and makes sure that ball goes out of play. 10 minutes to half-time here on Premier League Live, and it's still goalless. Remember, you can get in touch with us on our Twitter feed at TalkSport Live. Different views on how this might go. Clements from Accra in Ghana says Manchester United will win by a 1-0, but Michael Alper says Wolves will howl to a 1-0 victory. I can see what you've done there, Michael. Excellent comedy, that's what we're looking for. Fred suddenly outmatched on the edge of the area. Might come for Jimenez. He was trying to squeeze it through to Traoré. That's a poor clearance by Pogba. Not quite sure what he was doing there. It's come for Ruben Neves, but he's crowded out. This is being played at an almighty pace, this game. game. And here comes Fred on the counter for Manchester United. Forward by Sancho. Down the left-hand side for Greenwood. Nice touch to keep the ball in play. But again, Saiss snapping in with the challenge. Wolves are not letting them breathe.
No, it's a high energy. This is sort of tempo that they want to play at home. We saw that against Spurs as well. So, superstar here. Going back to Jadon Sancho, you'd have seen him a lot more than me, Kevin. But everything he's done, so nothing's really come off so far. It's been one of those games, you know. And how does he get himself into the game now?
Well, you alluded to it earlier, David. He's a player that relies on good combinations with players. You see him come in off that flank. He wants to play little 1-2s. He wants to get involved. He had a great link up with Achraf Hakimi a couple of seasons ago down the right for Dortmund, and last season his link ups with Rafael Guerreiro down the left were key. So that'll take a while, I think, to form those relationships, to get those 1-2s going, to get the spacing right. It just hasn't happened for him so far. But he is an investment for the future as well as the present. Here is Trincao finding João Moutinho, who's just been the metronome in midfield. Such quality in that area for Wolves with Ruben Neves and João Moutinho. Here's Marçal, curling cross into the area, but too close to David De Gea. And it remains 0-0. Ball out to Luke Shaw, midway inside the Manchester United half, on the far side, the left. Close cropped hair, Luke Shaw. Player that, it's worth bearing in mind, had a very serious injury fairly early on in his Manchester United career. Suffered against PSV Eindhoven. Took him a long time to come back, and you have to give him immense credit. Pogba, long ball through. It's Bruno Fernandes who lashes the ball in. But the cheers tell you everything, because the flag is up. He had a long look there across at the linesman, and to his horror, Bruno Fernandes, he saw that flag go up and he was just offside. Yeah, not a lot in it. He's done that pass a few times, Pogba, received it square, this time for Wan-Bissaka, then just first time played it round the corner over the top. Bruno's made his run early. Nice finish, but he'd gone too early. But again, it's just a showcasing Pogba's passing, which, as we all saw in the Euros, was absolutely fabulous. He was excellent for France, certainly in the group stage. Didn't quite happen for him against Switzerland in the knockouts. Although he had a brilliant goal, he also gave the ball away for a very important goal for the Swiss. Here is Jimenez, edge of the area, right foot shot, and that's charged down by Harry Maguire. Brilliant challenge by Kilman, and then another sliding challenge from Moutinho, but the ball finds Semedo on the far side, and he's offside. Just going back to that Bruno Fernandes incident, by the way, the linesman was absolutely right to keep his flag down, because in a tight call like that, they're supposed to keep the flag down so that they don't whistle the play dead, and they can let VAR have a look. It's only when it's really obvious that they're offside that the flag goes up straight away this season. They have tweaked the guidance for the officials this season, as Pogba goes down under pressure and the referee says that's okay. And here is Traore skipping away from Bruno Fernandes. Rolls the ball out to Jimenez. Inside right channel. Will he go for goal? No. Finds Traore, edge of the D. Will he go for the shot? He will, and it's charged down by Harry Maguire. And again, Jimenez slowed things down there, and he didn't want to surge forward and have a shot, David. No, and they've sort of resorted to shooting from distance, Wolves, and some of their approach play has been really good on the counter, but the pass, in all fairness, the pass out to Jimenez from Traore was slightly slow. It meant he couldn't really take it in his stride, so he checked back in, and momentum was lost really in that attack. Ticking towards the final 5 minutes of a captivating first half at Molineux. Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. Kevin Hatchard and David Connolly, your commentators for this one. And it has been full of incident. Wolves have really had their foot on the accelerator, but they haven't got a goal to show for it. Here is Semedo charging in field. Finds Ruben Neves, who played a really risky pass that was seized upon by Daniel James, and Wolves have got out of jail there because Daniel James just caught Saiss as he went for that, but Ruben Neves took an almighty risk there in playing that ball. Here's Marçal turning away from Bruno Fernandes, a Brazilian up against a Portuguese player, and out it goes to Semedo. First caught the eye at a high level at Benfica. Semedo, who won 2 league titles with the Portuguese Giants, went on to win another 2 with Barcelona.
He's made a couple of really good runs so far, raiding down that right, but no one's really giving him the ball. The likes of Jimenez and Troyer has taken shots on instead of using him.
Rather self-indulgent back heel there from Trincao, but if you're going to be that type of player, sometimes it'll come off and sometimes it won't. You just have to accept it when it doesn't. Here is Shaw, stocky left back, scored in the European Championship final. Memorable moments, even if England didn't go on to win the tournament. Don't get to score in a major final at Wembley very often. Played it by Varane to halfway, and Bruno Fernandes went down and wanted a free kick. He's not going to get one. Mike Dean happy to let play go on, and here is Jimenez coming in off the left onto his right foot, his favoured right foot, plays the square for Ruben Neves, urged to shoot, but he finds Semedo, right edge of the penalty area, faced by two. He has to go back. Ruben Neves with the shot, and that was ambitious, and the ball goes wide of the target. You just get the sense, David, that while Wolves are on top, they really do need to score.
Yeah, but what they are doing, Wolves, is kind of like running out of ideas. When they penetrate the box, they turn back or elect to shoot from distance rather than really trying to get in behind United, and that just limits their chances of scoring. They're shooting from too far out, in my opinion.
Talked about Wolves' goal-scoring problems. If you look at their last 21 top-flight matches overall, only scored 15 goals. It's been a real problem, not just for Bruno Lage, but for Nuno as well. Of course, not having Raúl Jiménez for a fair chunk didn't help. But he looks a bit more timid than usual. Just might take a while for that confidence to come back. Here is Wan-Bissaka for Manchester United, who are weathering the storm at the moment. Here's Mason Greenwood, tickles the ball infield to Pogba. Pogba into the feet to Bruno Fernandes, plays it to James in the area, low ball across the 6-yard box and defended well by Wolves. United have threatened sporadically, but Wolves have won yet another free kick, and it's Jimenez once again in the thick of things. United complaining to Mike Dean, who says, what for? What do you want a free kick for?
Yeah, I think it's just Rafael Varane here, a little bit aggressive on Raúl Jiménez as the ball just breaks. But Dan James, I think he's got to do a little bit more. He's picked out beautifully by Bruno Fernandes in and around the edge of the box. A nice little pass in between the wing-back and the centre-half. And then he needs a bit of composure, Dan, and then his cross, it just sort of scuffed in, really. Didn't try and pick anyone out. Comfortably cleared. They probably didn't make the most of that.
Bruno Fernandes has talked himself into a yellow card, which is why you heard an almighty roar from the Wolves fans. Wolves finished a disappointing 13th in the league last season. They had finished 7th in the previous two campaigns. And United still discomfited here. Varane's talking to the referee. Harry Maguire's chatting with him. Fred was putting forward his case as well. And they would do well to pipe down at this stage as we move into the final minute of this first half.
Mike Dean just asserting himself there a little bit.
That's not like him.
No.
He's one of the more demonstrative referees in the Premier League. But
he is when he's in the stand.
Indeed, yes. Yep. Big Tranmere fan, Mike Dean. If you're wondering, Tranmere, not a Premier League team, but certainly a notable team in the Northwest. Here is Greenwood, left foot shot! Oh, didn't miss by much. Went wide off the far post from Mason Greenwood. It's the first time he's come alive this afternoon.
Well, just when he pulls the trigger here, you think this is going to hit the back of the net. What a flick round the corner from Bruno Fernandes. Ball is pinged into him, about chest height by Luke Shaw on the diagonal. He one touches it round the corner with the outside of his boot, and then Greenwood's one-on-one with Cody, shifts it to the left of Cody and blasts it low across goal. But what a save that is. It is so subtle from Sarr. The referee hasn't even spotted it, but he just fingertips it round the post.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is the merest brush of the fingertips on the ball, and that's what's helped it on its way.
I mean, normally Greenwood in that sort of area, he is lethal, you know, so it's very rare. When it missed the target, I was thinking, that's not like him. And only on closer inspection you see, oh, hang on a minute, what a touch from the keeper.
Terrific stop from Jose Sarr. He's a man in form, Mason Greenwood. 8 goals in his last 10 Premier League appearances, including both of his games in the top flight this season. Forward by Maguire, helped on by Bruno Fernandes. Pogba couldn't get there. Hasn't been able to impose himself in this game at all yet, Paul Pogba. We've just the one added minute and we're nearly at the end of that. Good game so far.
Very entertaining, end to end. You know, chances, and it's been really good.
And it is all square at half-time. Adama Traore and Wolves have threatened. They have given United a few scares, but they haven't found a way to score the opening goal. At the other end, Manchester United thought they'd scored when Bruno Fernandes latched the ball home, but he was offside. And just before the end of the half, Mason Greenwood fired wide. Half-time, it's Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. You're listening to Premier League Live.
It's the ultimate fusion of football and celebrity.
The Best 11 podcast from Talk Sport.
Johnny Owen and Mark Webster interview the biggest names in popular culture.
Looking back at the role the beautiful game has played in their lives.
Paul Weller. Could I just start off apologising for last weekend?
Actor Stephen Graham. Good morning, Stevie.
Morning. Sharing their earliest football memories.
How they celebrated their team's successes.
Culminating in their all-time best 11.
Noel Gallagher.
Let's deal with the hangover and let's have it again after that.
The Best 11 podcast. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Tom Rennie. Join me for a weekly podcast, Week in the Tackle, available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to be joined by Brian Dunseth, MLS legend, to tackle the biggest stories from the week in soccer.
And the great thing about working with Tom and making Week in the Tackle is we're only going to be covering things we think are worth tackling.
This show is all about passion. What's going to get us riled up? What's going to get you riled up to give us all something to chew on?
We're not here to sit on the fence and tell you the stories of the day. That's what your phone's for. You'll be scrolling through Twitter while listening anyways.
Exactly. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. I'll save you the trouble. It is all bad news. This show is about tackling all the news of the week, giving our take on why it's interesting and why we think you should know it.
Who should be sacked? Who should be bought? Who should be sold? Who was right? Who was wrong?
Strong opinion, big stories, no agenda.
Week in the Tackle is available on Mondays from wherever you get your podcasts. If it's a big story in soccer, we'll tackle it.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sport? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the Talk Sport hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
It's an improvement week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the Talk Sport hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Cleared off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ella Price is there to tap it in.
The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lana Cleland striking from outside the penalty area.
And the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley. And Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nations' international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with the strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly Podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Listening to Premier League Live, and at Molineux it is Wolves 0, Manchester United 0 at half-time. And here are your first half highlights. Traore surging towards the penalty area, rolls it into the box. Jimenez with the job, kicked away by De Gea. It might drop for Traore, and he just couldn't bring the ball under his spell. Got the best of clearances by Fred. He's hit it straight to Trincao. Trincao will take him on, and he'll burst into the area. Big chance here, cleared on the goal line brilliantly, and then Trincao tried to keep it alive. And Manchester United survive. What a run by Francisco Trincao, but he couldn't find the finish. Jimenez on the charge, and he's got there. Ahead of Varane, plays it to the far post, and it's just wide of the target. It was Roma Saiz, of all people, with a scissor kick, and the ball bounced agonisingly wide. Here is Greenwood, left foot shot. Oh, didn't miss by much. Went wide off the far post from Mason Greenwood. It's the first time he's come alive this afternoon. Really good game so far, but no goals yet at Molineux. David Connolly, the former Wolves striker, still alongside me. Will Wolves be disappointed at half-time, David? Because, you know, you listen to those highlights, there are a fair few chances in there.
Yes, I think they'll be really pleased with how they've played, but knowing that maybe with a little bit more clinical finishing, that they could have maybe got a goal, but you know, they've been outstanding, and you can see their tactic try and be hard to beat, hard to break down, but knowing that they got somebody like Traoré and Trincao up top who can really do damage, and when they've countered on United, they've looked really threatening.
I know from a Manchester United point of view, you're concerned about the balance in midfield because there are big gaps opening up, aren't there?
Yeah, and it's only until you really, I mean, some people say this, don't they, you know, that they don't have enough protection in front of the back four. You know, do they need to buy somebody, the likes of Bissouma or another holding midfield player? McTominay's on the bench, but with Fred and Pogba, I mean, a couple of times now, even as high, you look at the break from Traoré, Fred and Pogba were 5 yards outside the Wolves box. Traoré just goes past them like they're not there, and then suddenly they're 2v2 Wolves. I mean, you know, that is just, you don't see too many sides that will have their two holding midfield players so high and they look really disorganised. At times, only at times, not all the time, just a couple of occasions. But somebody else might have punished them on those occasions, and they're probably lucky that Wolves haven't.
First Premier League starts for Jadon Sancho and Rafa Varane. What have you made of their performances so far?
I think Rafael has done well with what he's had to do, nice and calm on the ball. He's put his head in the way of everything when it's needed to be. I think Jadon's been a little bit frustrated. You know, that's how he appears at this moment in time. He's barely been on the ball. When he's got it, then he hasn't really done a lot with it, giving it away. He's been offside or whatever, and then he's dropped deeper and deeper. And yeah, he probably just needs a little bit of time, and probably wants the ball slightly earlier than he's had it so far.
There was a little red flag for Wolves at the end of the half, wasn't there, when Mason Greenwood lashed that shot just wide of the far post?
Oh, what a save. I think the goalkeeper Sarr has been superb for Wolves in terms of what he's had to do, and that save was so subtle, no one saw it. Even the ref didn't give it, but on the replay, it was the fingertip. You know, and Mason Greenwood, he's so lethal from that area. Normally, you know, left-hand side of the box, on his left peg, that nestles in the bottom corner, but what a save.
It's always the dilemma for a keeper, isn't it? Because they know they've made a brilliant save, but they have to keep it quiet, because otherwise they'll give away a corner.
Yeah.
So you've got that egotist kind of idea that they want to show off, but actually they know it will cost them if they do.
Yeah, well, I'm sure his manager will be giving a pat on the back, and so will the Wolves fans at the end of it if they get something out of this.
Well, somebody else who deserves a pat on the back is Nuno Espirito Santo, the former Wolves boss. He's made ever such a good start as the manager of Tottenham. They've won all 3 games so far. Earlier today, they beat Watford by a 1-0. Let's hear from Nuno now.
It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. The table doesn't mean anything, and I ask everybody to feel the same as well, because it doesn't mean anything. We're starting to work together. The ideas are coming step by step. The players are committed. They work very hard, not only today, all the games they've been working hard to achieve what we want, to be consistent, a solid team that can manage the game like we did today. I think we managed the game pretty well. We had chances to kill the game, but it didn't happen, so we stick together and we keep a clean sheet.
Tottenham top of the league with maximum points. Their bitter rivals Arsenal bottom of the league with no points whatsoever. David, what have you made of what Nuno's done at Tottenham so far? It's a hell of a job.
Oh, it is. I mean, you know, there were I guess a lot of people wondering who was going to be the next Tottenham manager, and they took so long, Daniel Levy.
Including Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, but it looks like they've settled on a good one. You know, and he did brilliantly. You got to remember, he had a couple of fantastic seasons. You spoke about it in commentary. You know, 7th place finishes, record points totals, etc., goals, you name it. And it just looks like, you know, maybe he was shorn of a couple of players that, you know, they really needed, and he might have been looking at Wolves this season thinking, you know, where are they going to go? So it's a really good move for him, and it looks like for the football club.
It's really interesting because he is seen as quite a reactive coach, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if he's got a higher quality of forward at Tottenham, which I think we can argue obviously that he does, then if you've got that solid base and you can add Son, Harry Kane, all of the other guys they've got, that could be a really dangerous mix.
Yes, the only caveat to that would be, if you saw Wolves in the Europa League, you would know they fell well short with the ball. Sevilla just absolutely, you know, dominated them, and you know, they played in the counter, they relied on the odd attack, and you know, that wouldn't be enough for a side like Tottenham. that is where we have to evolve, I think. And maybe with the players, I don't know, with the style, that will happen.
Nuno's replacement at Wolves, Bruno Lage, looking for his first goal in the Premier League as manager and looking for his first win. Is it more of the same? Is that the message he's giving to his players right now, or do they need to do something a bit different to open up United?
Well, the challenge for them will be to keep the tempo up. They might run out of energy. They've got a little breather now. Traoré can gather his lungs again, and Trincao. But I think as that half wore on, the attack sort of dissipated a little bit, and they need to get that tempo back in them. And looking at the bench, have you got Podence to come on? He might change it in terms of that fresh legs, but at times the attacks didn't quite have the same sort of aggression that they did at the start.
It is a finely balanced game in the West Midlands at the moment. Wolves have made much of the running, but they haven't found a way past David De Gea so far. So we go into the second half with a blank score sheet, and you are listening to Premier League Live.
It's the ultimate fusion of football and celebrity.
The Best 11 podcast from TalkSport.
Johnny Owen and Mark Webster interview the biggest names in popular culture.
Looking back at the role the beautiful game has played in their lives.
Paul Weller. Could I just start off apologising for last weekend?
Actor Stephen Graham. Good morning, Stevie.
Morning. Sharing their earliest football memories.
How they celebrated their team's successes.
Culminating in their all-time best 11.
Noel Gallagher.
Let's deal with the hangover and let's have it again after that.
The Best 11 podcast. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Tom Rennie. Join me for a weekly podcast, Week in the Tackle, available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to be joined by Brian Dunseth, MLS legend, to tackle the biggest stories from the week in soccer.
And the great thing about working with Tom and making Week in the Tackle is we're only going to be covering things we think are worth tackling.
This show is all about passion. What's going to get us riled up? What's going to get you riled up to give us all something to chew on?
We're not here to sit on the fence and tell you the stories of the day. That's what your phone's for. You'll be scrolling through Twitter while listening anyways.
Exactly. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. I'll save you the trouble. It is all bad news. This show is about tackling all the news of the week, giving our take on why it's interesting and why we think you should know it.
Who should be sacked? Who should be bought? Who should be sold? Who was right? Who was wrong?
Strong opinion, big stories, no agenda.
Week in the Tackle is available on Mondays from wherever you get your podcasts. If it's a big story in soccer, we'll tackle it.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sport? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the TalkSport hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
An improvement week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the TalkSport hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Cleared off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ella Price is there to tap it in.
The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lana Cleland striking from outside the penalty area.
And the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley. And Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nations' international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with the strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly Podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to TalkSport's coverage of Wolverhampton Wanderers against Manchester United from Molineux. I'm your host and commentator, Kevin Hatchard. Alongside me, the former Wolves striker, David Connolly. This is Premier League Live. The Manchester United players back out on the pitch at Molineux with his goalless after a very intriguing first half. Some interesting correspondence from you guys on our Twitter feed at TalkSport Live. Randall Smith says, enjoying the beauty of Utah while listening to your fine commentary, all the while trying to heal from the brutal loss of my Gunners. Arsenal, of course, beat 5-0 at Manchester City yesterday. Chijoke Izundu says, I'm wondering why Solskjaer would stick to 2 holding midfielders as Pogba lies ineffectively deep. Also says it's a cloudy day in Lagos, so always nice to get a weather report. David, just on that point about Pogba and Fred, you've already alluded to the fact that it's not working defensively. Is it hampering them creatively as well?
Well, I mean, if you look at that pass they put over the top, Pogba, for Fernandes when he just strayed offside, you'd say no, but you know, they just haven't been quite the force. And if you look at how Wolves, you know, the strike, for example, from Trincao cleared off the line, I mean, all the attacks of note have come from Wolves, and I guess that they've weathered the storm. You know, you've got to respect Wolves playing in front of their own fans again at Molineux. They put on a really good performance. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have given them a couple of stern words and saying, look, you know, we've got to play an awful lot better in this second half.
Well, it looks as though no changes at half time. Certainly Wolves will be pleased with how that first half went, and it'll be interesting to see if United change something early in this second period. United playing from right to left in this second half in their new change strip of white, blue and a bit of red shirts and blue shorts. Paul Pogba with his hair perfectly matching that away strip at the moment. Wolves in the traditional old gold and black, old gold shirts, black shorts, old gold socks, attacking the goal away to the right hand side. And as Bruno Fernandes goes down with a blow to the face, I'll give you the 2 teams. Jose Sarr in goal for Wolves, Roma Saiz, Connor Cody and Max Kilman at the back, Marsal and Nelson Semedo at the 2 wing backs, João Moutinho and Ruben Neves the midfield pair. It was Neves who just clipped Fernandes in the face there as they went for a high ball. And the front 3, Adama Traore, Raúl Jimenez and Francisco Trincao. United with David De Gea in goal, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Rafael Varane and Aaron Wan-Bissaka at the back 4. Varane making his Premier League debut. Fred and Paul Pogba, the holding midfielders in the front 4 of Jadon Sancho, his full debut for United. Bruno Fernandes, Daniel James and Mason Greenwood. And it is Varane on the ball now. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer says the Frenchman's been humble and inquisitive. Says he doesn't want to learn by mistakes in games. He wants to learn on the training field before he even gets to the pitch. Says everything about him has been impressive. Something you would expect from a player with his CV and his pedigree. And here he is now. Varane, the former Lens player, knocks it long down the inside right channel, headed away by Saiz. It'll come for Moutinho. He's picked up for just £5 million, Moutinho, when he was signed from Monaco. Extraordinary bargain. Here is Shaw, pokes it out to the left hand side, and Jadon Sancho finds Shaw again. Sancho goes on the outside of him, twisting and turning. He's forced out to the corner flag though, but he does win the corner, Jadon Sancho. It's a big half for him potentially, David.
Absolutely. I mean, he's running to the corner down a blind alley really, and what is Kilman doing, kicking it out for a corner? He had no real need to do that. The best thing would have been obviously going out for a throw. Instead, I don't know what he's thinking there, Kilman.
Well, will it be costly? We will see. The voice of David Connolly there, former Wolves striker. And it is going to be a corner kick here for Manchester United from the left-hand side, the near side. Whipped towards the far post. Strong header away and then hook clear by Ruben Neves. Not the best of first touches by Fred, it has to be said, but he manages to retrieve the situation and he finds Pogba down by the touchline and he's trying to shrug Neves off. Low ball, it's too close to Jose Sarr. And Pogba once again not quite managing to showcase his quality.
No, I mean, he was under a little bit of pressure there from Moutinho, trying to get the ball back into the box. I mean, obviously he's come up with assists for fun so far. What was it, 4 in the first game?
Yeah, 4 in the first game against Leeds. He got another one against Southampton.
That's not bad, is it? Come on.
No slouch when it comes to assists.
He can
5
pass
already.
Wow, he can pass and cut through, you know, whole units, you know, midfields and back fours, and there's not too many that can pass like him. De Bruyne, you know.
Yeah, he's in that company, and you look at the goals that he can score as well. I think that's sometimes why people get a bit frustrated, because you see the quality in games but finds it difficult maybe to be consistent. But then you look at the numbers, the raw numbers, once they're down there, and over the course of his time at Manchester United, they're very impressive in terms of goals and assists.
Yep.
And here he is again on halfway. player that has 28 goals and 34 assists in the Premier League as a Manchester United player.
Well, just a little bit of miscontrol here from Dan James, who's had, I guess, an indifferent start in this game. I don't think he did too well with what he had in that first 45, and he just lost the ball there, but he's got it back now.
Here is Paul Pogba. World Cup winner Paul Pogba finds Shaw. Shaw jabs it forward to Sancho. Sancho, one of the players who missed in the penalty shootout for England against Italy in that Euro final. Something I'm sure he'll learn from in terms of adversity, but he's a player that has fierce ambition anyway. Has already taken risks in his career. Left Manchester City to join Dortmund, went to a new country, new language, new club, and he did so well. He's a remarkable young man in so many ways, Jadon Sancho. Here's James on the right hand side. His cross is charged down by Marcel, and Marcel has won it again, the former Lyon player.
Well, he just played the ball blind there, Dan James, infield, and was easily cut out. And that's what he's got to do a bit better when he's put under pressure, finding a way out of trouble, giving it to a United player.
Here's Maguire, plays it out to the left-hand side, Luke Shaw. 5 minutes gone in the second half, and it is Wolves nil, Manchester United nil, and they've lost it again, United. And an opportunity here for Trincao. Comes in off the right, as he loves to do. Finds Ruben Neves, just jabs that ball across the centre circle to find Marcel. Marcel forward to Traore. Tight to the left touchline. Rolls it in field to João Moutinho. Played between the lines to Trincao. Popping up between those midfield and defensive lines. Now it's with Moutinho, and that's a laser guided ball out to the right hand side, and Nelson Semedo. Semedo back to Ruben Neves, back out to Semedo, tight to the right touchline. A little 1-2 between him and Trincao. This is neat and tidy from Wolves, but are they going anywhere? Marcel inside left channel. Slowed this down. Traore in off the left touchline, finds Moutinho, now Ruben Neves. Forward to Trincao, who's come into a central area, and he'll surge towards the box. Trincao, and he'll get into the box. Can he get the cross in? He can't. Excellent block by Varane, puts the ball behind for a corner, but they were patient and they found a way through.
Yeah, and the ball gets to Trincao, and something happens every time. Just skips his way into the box here. Brilliant little lift. Gets past Maguire, bursts into the box, tries to cut it back, I think, to Raul Jimenez, but in the end Varane's in the right place at the right time. But again, Trincao, superb play.
He's one of those guys that quickens the pulse and makes the jaw drop. Enjoys entertaining, and that, after all, is what this is all about. And he's won his team a corner. It'll be João Moutinho to take it. Wearing number 28, little stutter step. Floats it like a golf shot towards the far post. Jimenez was winding up for the volley, but never got the ball. And United have won that back and have lofted it long towards the Wolves' half. Excellent header away by Marcel under pressure. Trincao tries to nod it in field, but ends up finding Mason Greenwood, who had one dangerous effort just before half-time, but was largely quiet in the first period. He could carve out a piece of history. If he scores today, he'll be only the second teenager to score in the first 3 games of a Premier League season. Robbie Fowler did it for Liverpool, so he'd be with some esteemed company if Greenwood could replicate that feat today. And United in general can make English football history. If they avoid defeat, they'll have gone 28 Premier League away games without defeat, and that would eclipse the mark set by Arsenal back in 2004. And that won't just be a Premier League record, it'll be a record for the top 4 divisions of English football. Here's Dan James on the left-hand side, approaching the penalty area. Low ball to the far post, swept away really well by Saiz, who's one of those low-key players, David, that just seems to have gotten better and better and better.
Yeah, in the right place at the right time, and he's going to make a change here. Just looking at the 2 wingers, they switched over for a spell, but maybe I think Dan James, that's him off now.
So we're going to see Edinson Cavani back after a period of isolation.
You imagine now Greenwood might be the one that goes wide.
If you look at Cavani's record in the final 11 appearances in all competitions for United at the end of last season, he got 10 goals. Scored in that Europa League final, 17 goals in all competitions last season. Started all 5 of Uruguay's games at the Copa America. Player with vast experience, and a player that has the number that Cristiano Ronaldo would dearly want. He has that number in the Premier League already, Edinson Cavani.
Well, I think Dan James will be disappointed. I think he didn't have a great game on the ball. Mason Greenwood looks like he shifted out to that right-hand side so he can cut in using his lethal left, and Sancho back on the left wing as well.
Here is Jimenez trying to help the ball out towards Marçal, but it was nowhere near him. 9 minutes gone in the second half here on Premier League Live. Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. United have drawn 9 Premier League games already in 2021. Hard to beat, but if they are going to win the Premier League title, they have to start turning those draws into wins. Here is Harry Maguire, finds Pogba, again very deep, midway inside his own half here. Paul Pogba, flash of blue and white in his dark hair. It's lofted long, well won back by Saiss, and here is Traore moving through the gears and goes down and wins the free kick. And United again feel they were hard done by, but the referee Mike Dean is unmoved.
Yeah, I think it's Paul Pogba with the foul. I don't think he actually makes contact here, but what he's trying to do, I guess, redeem himself, because he lost possession trying to play the ball in behind, and actually there might have been a little bit of contact there on a trailing leg, but yeah, he took his time in possession, playing in that, I guess we now call it the quarterback role, so he's very deep, and he does take his time, Pogba. See if the pass is on, he checks, looks at the runs, you know, obviously looking at Cavani making a run, and maybe Greenwood, who can he pick out with that killer pass?
Do you feel like Cavani gave them something totally different last season? Genuine centre-forwards who makes the kind of runs the centre-forward makes, David, and they have a lot of hybrid players, don't they? They've got Marcus Rashford, they've got Anthony Martial, they've got Mason Greenwood, who are not necessarily dyed-in-the-wool centre-forwards. They can play all across the attacking line.
Absolutely, but also, you know, he's got a real presence about him, Edison, hasn't he? You know, he's physically imposing. Obviously, his stature in the game as well. He's one of those that he'll play when he's right, you know. He proven that last season that if he's not quite right, you know, do himself justice, he'll wait and bide his time.
And he's a player that looks after himself, I think that's fair to say.
Well, he looks in superb condition, doesn't he? Another one obviously coming through the door, Cristiano Ronaldo setting the standard, those two senior pros.
And that does make the difference in training. Listen to some of the Paris players talk about the arrival of Leo Messi, and those rondos are a bit more intense now, and training sessions.
Well, have you seen their small-sided games? Can you imagine a 3v3 or 4v4 with Messi and Mbappe and
it's amazing,
Neymar?
Isn't it?
Oh my goodness. If you've got
you'd love that, David.
Well,
I'll put you in the mix there.
If you've got a little tweak, you know, you're not quite feeling up to it, then yeah, you wouldn't be going out and training that's for sure.
No, you'd be right in the thick of it, I'm sure. 57th minute, Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. Listening to Premier League Live. Manchester United do not want to lose ground in the Premier League title race. Liverpool and Chelsea cancelled each other out yesterday at Anfield, a 1-1 draw in that one, but Manchester City hammered Arsenal 5-0. Traore trying to race away down the left-hand side, and the whistle had long since gone, and the flag is up on this near side, the Wolves' right.
Can you imagine if you were a captain picking those teams? You know, just in training, you know, you get first pick.
I deliberately not pick Messi.
I don't know how Mbappe or Neymar would feel, obviously, because someone's first and someone's going to be.
Fernandes, lovely first touch. Can he get the shot away? He rolls it back towards Sancho. Well seen by Semedo. Left-footed volley was an excellent one, but straight down the throat of Jose Sarr, and it was Fred who struck it. And the goalkeeper delighted to get the ball at the second attempt.
Well, it's like telepathy, these two, Pogba and Fernandes. Again, he receives a square pass about 50 yards from goal. Pogba doesn't look. He doesn't really check his shoulder to see if Fernandes is making the run. He just bends this ball, plays it round the corner. It just bounces just outside the box. Fernandes runs onto it. Maybe could have got a shot off, check back and try to pick Sancho out. But it's just telepathy at times from Pogba. You know, this pass, that move, Pogba into Fernandes.
Forward by Pogba again, looking for Sancho this time. It's tempting to think of him purely as a winger, but he does like to come in field, Jadon Sancho. It's a big part of his Borussia Dortmund play, that, when he would move into those half spaces and sometimes just be in the centre entirely. Here is Fred on the turn in the centre circle, away from pressure, and you just sense that Manchester United are starting to get a grip here. Here is Shaw down the left-hand side. Jabs it infield for Sancho. First time ball back for Fred. And it's out to Shaw again. Now Jadon Sancho. Player that has said, if you're serious about football, you have to make sacrifices. You can't be afraid. Said you can't be the best if you don't take chances. Here is Sancho again, looking to take his chance on his full Premier League debut for Manchester United. But again, it breaks down with the ball at his feet. And here goes Trincao. The Wolves fans are taking two straight away. It's with Ruben Neves in the centre circle. Plays it across that centre circle for Saiz. He rolls it down the far touchline for Marçal. He's not always the most fluent going forward, it has to be said. Jimenez finds Trincao, who again has come into a central area. Here's Ruben Neves. Goes to Kilman up from the back. 5 yards inside the Manchester United half. Finds Trincao. He's got Fred for company, so he has to find Semedo down the right-hand side, tight to the touchline. A 1-2 between Semedo and Traoré. Traoré didn't get the chance to shine, really, at the European Championship for Spain as they reached the semi-finals of that tournament. Here is João Moutinho. It's a good spell of possession, this, from Wolves, because United were starting to get a grip of things. An hour gone at Molineux, and it's on a knife edge. Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. Semedo. It's a really good spell from Wolves. Here is Traoré. Gets the cross in from the right towards the far post, and it was attacked by Jimenez. Wan-Bissaka for company, and the ball goes behind for a goal kick, and Jimenez wanted the corner.
Yeah, just a combination here, as you say, a nice passage of play from Wolves. Kept the ball, working it through the thirds, eventually with Traoré out wide, shifts it onto his right, delivers the ball to the far post. He gets up well, Jimenez, but it just seemed, well, he was adamant it came off Wan-Bissaka, but the referee said no, and United have got it back.
Remember, you can get in touch with us on our Twitter feeds at TalkSport Live. That's what Steve Downey's done. Says on the way back to Northern California after dropping my daughter off in LA at nursing school. Well, good luck to her, enjoying the commentary. Whereas Rick Kitch says listening poolside to another great Premier League match and rooting for Wolves. I'll try not to be too jealous that you're listening by a swimming pool.
Yeah, just give us the mundane stuff, tidying out the fridge or the shed or
yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah, the garden, cutting the grass, all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Doing tax returns or something like that. Here's Semedo clearing the ball up to Ruben Neves, out to Trincao down the right hand side, jabs it into the path of Traoré, spins away from Maguire, but then turns into trouble. He's bitten off more than he could chew there, Traoré, and United are on the move with Bruno Fernandes in the centre circle. Remarkable record already as a Manchester United player, Bruno Fernandes. Here's Pogba. Pogba plays the 1-2 with Sancho. Pogba chased by Moutinho, plays it square out to the right hand side of Wan-Bissaka, and then Greenwood is crunched fairly by Marçal, and here goes Moutinho. Rolls it forward for Jimenez, down the left-hand side, pokes it into the path of Traoré. Trincao's in the box if he can find him. He finds Trincao! Oh, he's made a mess of it. Bobbles the shot wide of the target, and a wry smile. He knows he should have done so much better, Francisco Trincao.
Yeah, what a waste. And what he should have done better here is actually take a touch. A really good move. Jimenez prods it down the line to Traoré. I think the crowd are screaming at Traoré just to deliver it first time. He chops back in on his right. He still picks out Trincao in and around the penalty spot. He's only really faced with Maguire in the box. He had the time to take that on his left and maybe shift it onto his right. But nonetheless, he went first time in a scuffed, bobbly finish. He should have done more there.
Lacked conviction there, Trincao. That was a big opportunity for the 21-year-old. Mason Greenwood's down for Manchester United here. Talked about Bruno Fernandes. You look at his record already. He has 29 Premier League goals, 19 assists. In all competitions last season, he got 28 goals. Now, 13 of them were penalties, but that is still, by any stretch, an extraordinary achievement.
Yeah, it's kind of like before and after Bruno, isn't it, really?
He has made such a difference to this team. Talked about risk takers. He was one early in his career. He moved from Boavista's youth team to the Italian lower leagues. He went to Novara, Bit of space here for Greenwood. Down the right-hand side for United, into the box. Still going Greenwood, he's taken it too far. He had Cavani with him, but he decided to go alone, and it was the wrong decision. He played the ball too far in front of himself, and Jose Sarr able to claim it.
He just got his step over wrong there, Greenwood, had he burst into the box. Romain Saiss dived in about 30 yards from goal, and that was a trigger then for Greenwood to scamper away. In the end, the little step over he tried didn't really come off, and then, as you say, the goalkeeper took a really good start position. Any miscontrol, he was onto it.
Here's Maguire under pressure from Trincao. Bit of a physical mismatch, and true enough, Maguire comes out with the ball. Here is Luke Shaw, forward towards halfway, and Bruno Fernandes just inside Wolves territory. It is captivating stuff from the Premier League. Wolves nil, Manchester United nil. Here's Shaw, and he's hit that too long, and that's a bit of panic from Marçal, who didn't really need to act there, but he's put the ball behind for a corner, and there was just a quick conversation there between Jose Sarr and Marçal.
It's just a poor ball in the box, wasn't it, from Luke Shaw? Far too far over here, sailing out towards the back post, and Marçal took no chances, put it out for a corner, but Sarr, to be honest, should be saying to him, chest that back to me.
If he did shout, he didn't shout early enough. He's shouting now, though, trying to organise his defence.
It's loud now, isn't it, with the fans, raucous. Maybe you wouldn't have heard him.
Flat corner, headed away at the near post by Semedo. It wasn't Mason Greenwood's best work there. Here is Trincao on the break for Wolves. Still looking for their first Premier League goal of the season, but they have played well by and large, but given away really cheaply in his own half by Trincao, and he got lucky there as the ball didn't really break Manchester United's way. Here's Wan-Bissaka down the left for United, popping up in unfamiliar territory, rolls it infield to Pogba. Pogba across to Bruno Fernandes with an early cross towards the far post and put behind by Semedo. And Manchester United do look a lot more fluent in attack in this second half than they did in the first.
Well, I think that's a combination as well of just Wolves looking a little bit weary. Here's another ball to the back post. It's the wing back again who's got to divert it out for a corner, and he's not the most convincing clearance. I don't think Semedo really knew where that was going.
Got the job done in the end. It'll be a corner to United. Can they make the breakthrough? They've had a few scares themselves in this game. They have not lost on the road in the Premier League since February 2020. They were beaten by their bitter rivals Liverpool at Anfield. Since then, 27 Premier League away games in a row without defeat. That is, by any standards, an extraordinary sequence. But they don't just want to draw this game, they want to win it. And they have this corner, which Shaw will take. The number 23 raises his right arm and prepares to take it left-footed. It's towards the far post, and the header was won by Maguire, who claimed he was fouled, but the referee says that's okay. Marçal has overrun it, and United are on the attack down the left with Shaw. His cross headed away by Saiss, and Marçal will try again. This time he just smashes it long, looking for Traoré. He'll take on Fred, and he'll beat Fred. Excellent from Adama Traoré. And now he'll try and surge past Shaw. Shaw got back and made an excellent challenge, but he's still going Traoré. Extraordinary determination. Just will not give up. And his cross is blocked by Shaw, I think in a rather sensitive area. Hence the jeers of the home fans, and that will be a corner. And it might take Luke Shaw a little while to get up.
It might do. I mean, for sheer persistence, you've got to say Traoré just keeps going here, wins the ball back. You mentioned about the boom from Marçal, but it was actually not a bad percentage ball, was it? Trying to pick out Traoré up against Fred, that is a mismatch. And in the end, I think Shaw's taken one for the team there, right where it hurts.
Yeah, that is brutal. We'll have all gentlemen at Molineux wincing slightly. Even the ones who were happy to jeer him, I think, just have a tiny bit of sympathy, maybe. It's Moutinho to take. Raises both arms.
Great shot of the stadium there, isn't it, with the camera?
Here it comes towards the far post. The header is won. Saved brilliantly by De Gea. That's a remarkable save. Saiss has his head in his hands. He cannot believe that Wolves haven't scored there. Somehow David De Gea kept it out. Here come United on the counter with Paul Pogba approaching halfway. fires the ball brilliantly into the feet of Fernandes. Forward to Sancho in the penalty area, lays it off to Fernandes. The flag's up, offside against Jadon Sancho, but all eyes were on David De Gea at the other end there, who's wincing, having made a brilliant save.
Yeah, 2 point-blank saves here. He just out-jumps Varane. His headers down, heads it down at De Gea's feet. He sort of kicks it away, but it doesn't really get out of the 6-yard box. It's just bobbling around in there, and then he follows up, and then the instinctive save with his left hand, diving to his left when the ball looked destined for the far corner, only a couple of yards out. Great reaction here from De Gea. He's on his arse, and then he gets up again. I mean, he's probably done that 1,000 times in training, but to see it in a game, for it to come off, super save.
The second save is outrageously good. It is such a good reaction. It's the kind of thing they train all the time. Goalkeepers getting up quickly after making the first save. Wolves have made a change. They've taken off Trincao and brought on another fleet-footed attacking player, skillful player, Daniel Podence. But really, Wolves should be in front. David De Gea saving not once but twice from Romain Saiss. Bit of space here for Podence, who did score against Forest in midweek in the Cup. Plays it across to Traore, right corner of the penalty area. He'll go the long way round, getting on the outside of Fred. Cross was deflected to the edge of the area. It's Ruben Neves, right foot shot, and De Gea makes a comfortable save this time, falling to his left, and he gathers the ball in.
Yeah, terrific response here, because you've got to say United started the second half very, very well, but Wolves look dead on their feet, but they've really come alive the last 5-10 minutes, and here he is, Neves on the edge of the box. Normally you back him to try and bend that into the top corner. He's very straight towards the ball, and he has to kind of run around it, and he can't just get the curl on it in the end. It's an easy save for De Gea.
We're into the final 20 minutes of Molineux. Wolves 0, Manchester United 0. You're listening to Premier League Live. We asked for more mundane tweets on our Twitter feed at TalkSport Live. Steve Blair has delivered. I'm listening while doing yard work in Alabama. That's the kind of thing we want.
Yeah.
The kind of work we don't want to be doing. That's what we want to hear about. Here is Fred, just inside the Wolves half. Plays it to his right for Paul Pogba. Manchester United do not want to drop points 2 weekends running, having played so impressively on match day 1 against Leeds United when they won 5-1. Did get a relatively kind draw in the group stage of the Champions League. They'll face their Europa League conquerors Villarreal. They'll play Atalanta and also take on the Swiss champions Young Boys of Bern. You might look at that and think it's a tricky one, but actually I felt it was a far harder group last season when they had Paris and Leipzig in the same group. They should really have gone through from that group. Jadon Sancho's full debut for Manchester United comes to an end. He's replaced by Anthony Martial. Tough evening for him, David.
Yes, and I think both wide men really struggled today. Dan James and Jadon Sancho didn't really get in the game, didn't do enough of the ball, looked a little bit low in confidence, I think, both players. I know that might sound odd or strange, 2 players of such talent, but especially Sancho, the amount of times, even when he got in towards the end there and he was flagged offside, he still could have turned and gone towards goal, but he just played the ball backwards, and he's not really in the team for that. He's in the team to go forwards.
I can tell you, Romain Saiss is still thinking about how he didn't score against David De Gea. He's just put his head in his hands again. Still thinking about that double save that the Spaniard made. Had a lot of stick last season. Ball is rolled forward here towards Greenwood and comfortably taken by Jose Sarr. And here we go again down the left with Marçal. 73rd minute here on Premier League Live. Still goalless between Wolves and Manchester United, but it's not been a dull 0-0 so far. We've had great saves, we've had some lovely pieces of skill. Here is Jimenez, played it slightly behind Semedo, and Semedo now has Shaw for company down the right hand side for Wolves in an attacking position. He goes back in field to João Moutinho, plays it to Adama Traore, who's probably been Wolves' best player, and he played it to Semedo, tried to let it run. I'm not quite sure why. And United have cleared down the left-hand side, and here is Mason Greenwood, and he's got the run on Cody. He's away from Connor Cody. Low ball to the far post, swept away, and then it nearly came off Kilman and went in, but it's gone behind for a corner, and Wolves are at full stretch.
Yeah, they are. Connor Cody just got a little bit too tight here. Underestimated the pace of Mason Greenwood. Terrific first touch. He had a little tug at his shirt, and he just tried to square the ball across the box, and maybe Edison Cavani just lurking a little bit behind Kilman. Might have been better just trying to get in front of him. Kilman with the clearance out for a corner.
It's a rather nervy clearance from Saiz that nearly played Kilman into trouble, but the corner was the only penalty in the end for them. And it'll be sure to take 16 minutes to go of normal time. Cavani lurking at the near posts. Varane and Maguire both on the edge of the area.
Obviously the ball is not in the quadrant or something, as Mike Dean's gone over to inspect.
It's still pretty touch and go, but this time it's okay, and Luke Shaw takes it towards the far posts. Maguire wins the initial header, but then it's cleared only as far as Greenwood, right edge of the penalty area, and it's come from Pogba, and it's touched over the top by Jose Sarr. I don't think Greenwood was actually trying to find Pogba. I think he just trod on the ball. It fell perfectly for him, and Pogba's shot is touched over the top.
Yeah, that's a couple of times now Greenwood's tried a skill. Maybe the pitch is a bit sticky, you know. I mean, obviously it's quite dry. Maybe he hasn't had enough water on the pitch, but at times that ball is just stuck in the grass. Oh, you know, it might be the new ball. In the end, as you say, it wasn't intentional, but Pogba with the strike tipped over.
Final quarter of an hour. Which way will this one go? Here comes the corner. It's a good ball in towards the near post. Martial went for it, tried to help it on, but Jose Sarr able to gather, and he smacks it long looking for Podence, who is beaten to the ball by David De Gea, who had the perfect starting position. A little nod to his defender there, and that was fine goalkeeping from De Gea, who had a tough season in the last campaign. 65% save rate, well down on what he would usually produce. He missed the key penalty in the Europa League final against Villarreal. And over the last 3 seasons, he's made 8 errors, which have led directly to Premier League goals. And as he showed with that double save, he is a goalkeeper capable of world-class saves. Here's Wan-Bissaka under pressure from the number 10, Daniel Podence, who's recently back from groin surgery. Former Olympiacos player. Varane has the ball in the penalty area, forward to Pogba. Will Manchester United snatch it? Here is Shaw, over halfway down the left, and finds the number 9, Martial. Another player that divides opinion, Anthony Martial. He's only scored in 1 of his last 20 games for Manchester United. That was back in February. Here he is again, Frenchman. Infield to Pogba. Just drifts the ball across to Wan-Bissaka. Forward from right back. Plays a 1-2 with Cavani. Cavani's just moved out to this right-hand side rather than occupying the central space. So they've got Martial on the left, they've got Cavani on the right, they've got Greenwood through the middle. Just giving Wolves a few different problems to deal with. Here is Martial taking on Semedo, away from both him and Neves. Chips the ball into the area, but that's rather timid from Martial and easily cleared by Wolves. And here is Traore, and it's that familiar buzz around Molineux. Tried to take on Shaw, but ended up just pushing the ball straight out of play. Bruno Lage, the Wolves manager, wants a free kick, but he's not going to get one there.
Well, I think he just tried to play the ball around one side of Luke Shaw and run around the other, and those two are pretty big, aren't they, the pair of them? So not enough space, I don't think, for both of them in that little part of the pitch.
You'd be delighted to know, David, we're getting more mundane messages.
Yes.
Balint has got in touch from New Jersey. Mowing the lawn before a storm, so that's quite extreme. And Ripples on the edge of his seat in St. Louis, and says won't do any chores until Adama Traore scores a goal.
Well, you might have an afternoon off.
A while.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, the grass is what I would say. You know, yard work encompasses a lot of things. I wouldn't be putting myself up for that. I need just to do one thing: cut the grass or take the bins out, or, you know, yard work sounds like a lot of work.
I'd avoid the whole lot. Here is Traore down the inside right channel, skips away from Fred and then goes down under the challenge of Pogba, and the referee says that's okay, no free kick. Martial up to halfway, and Bruno Fernandes flips it over the top looking for Cavani, and Jose Sarr, not for the first time, comes racing out of his box and gets it absolutely right with a diving header away.
Yeah, superb start position, isn't it, from the keeper Sarr? He's had to be aware, because that's what obviously Pogba likes, that deeper pass. Fernandes as well, so your goalkeeper is crucial. If the ball does or is delivered over your back unit, he's got to be on his bike, and he has been.
Bruno Lage on the edge of his technical area, in his thin black coats, cajoling and coaching and hoping for this first goal. Does not want to go 3 games in the Premier League without a goal, because the pressure will build. Of course, we've got international break coming up. Here's Wan-Bissaka, plenty of grass to move into, finds Greenwood, right hand side, approaching the penalty area, takes on Marçal, low ball in, Bruno Fernandes got the touch, it went out right across the face of goal. Martial picks it up, down to the corner flag on the left hand side, he'll face Semedo. Semedo trying to stick with him, low ball into Fred in the penalty area, back out of the box to find Fernandes. Pogba with a loose touch, and that's away by Neves, and he was caught there, I thought, but the referee says play on. Here goes Mason Greenwood. This might be controversial. Greenwood with the shot, and Greenwood with the goal, and there is a piece of history. Only the second teenager in Premier League history to score in the first 3 games of a Premier League season. Greenwood again makes the difference. Wolves feel they should have had a free kick, and it is Wolves 0, Manchester United 1.
Well, he scores in front of the United fans here, but I mean, Paul Pogba had a heavy touch, and as Ruben Neves gets there in front of Paul Pogba, he follows through Pogba. He's got both feet, I wouldn't say off the ground, but it's a real 50-50. And I don't know. Obviously, play continues. Eventually, they work it out to Greenwood, and he's done this skill so often. But that boot does look high on Neves, but he doesn't go to ground immediately, so that's the only issue.
It is a lunge, but Mike Dean was right on the scene. He couldn't have been in a better position, and he allowed play to continue, and we've praised Jose Sarr today, but the shot from Greenwood is savable, and it goes under his right hand. He gets a touch, but not enough of one. The ball bounces into the floor and goes into the net, and I think the goalkeeper will look at it and feel that he should have done better. It's a yellow card to add insult to injury for Ruben Neves. His protests have gone a bit too far, and Manchester United once again finding a way away from home. They've been behind the 8 ball at times this evening, but they have found a way to take the lead. And Mason Greenwood, David, what an achievement. Robbie Fowler, the only other player in Premier League history to score as a teenager in his first 3 games of a Premier League season.
Yeah, and he did the same skill there, little left step over and went down onto his weaker right side, but he's got such quality. He's still able to direct it low into the corner. I'd agree, Sarr's had a superb game, but he should have kept that out. Got one hand to it, but it had pace, the ball, and had a little bit of power on the strike, but nonetheless. And look, Ruben Neves is not happy. His shin pad ended up outside his sock, and I think he might have a little something to show for it on his shin, because he kept his sock down for a long time, remonstrating with the ref Mike Dean, but he was having none of it. Got to say, I think they were very lucky, especially Paul Pogba, to get away with that.
Referee was adamant there was no intervention from the VAR official Stuart Atwell in Stockley Park, and the goal stands, and Manchester United are heading for what would be a precious win and 7 points from their first 3 Premier League games of the season. Wolves feel they should have a free kick here, and it's all getting a bit tetchy, it's all getting a bit heated. Wolves feel aggrieved, they feel angry, and they find themselves a goal behind. It is already their worst start to a league season since 2003, when they lost their first 3 Premier League games that season, and the third loss actually in 2003 was against United. And if you stretch back into last season, they've lost 5 in a row in the Premier League, and across those 5 games before today they scored 1 goal from 80 shots. played well today. They haven't found a way to score, and here is Greenwood down the right-hand side. 3 Premier League goals in 3 Premier League games for Mason Greenwood. Here's Pogba, plays it into the box, headed away by Cody. And this time Wolves do get a free kick midway inside their own half, and again they're talking to the referee, and again perhaps talking themselves into trouble, but there is going to be a yellow card for the Manchester United offender here for the challenge. It's Fred who picks up the caution. Quick apology from the Brazilian.
And just going back, I mean, you spoke at the start about, we spoke about where Ronaldo would fit in, and I mentioned about, obviously Greenwood. I know he started as a central striker, but ultimately I think he can give you a little bit more from wider, especially that right side, because he can cut in with his left and use his right. So there will still be a place for Greenwood no matter what.
Here is Semedo. This one's not done yet. 6 minutes left of normal time. Semedo gives away the free kick with a rather unsubtle tug on Martial there as he tried to break. Might do well to get away with a yellow card there, actually, Semedo, because there was no attempt to play the ball whatsoever.
It's a massive goal, that, Kevin, isn't it? If you think about it in the context of the results so far this season, Man City, etc. They've dropped points, but for everyone else, for United, and obviously after City's result yesterday, huge goal.
What a week it's been for Manchester United fans, the travelling fans waving in unison here, trying to wave their team to another away win. But Cristiano Ronaldo coming back to Old Trafford, not only a big statement of intent, but something really emotional for United fans. Of course, Ronaldo, part of so many successes both in the Champions League and in terms of their Premier League domination. He was a symbol of the latter stages of the Sir Alex Ferguson era. So for him to be back in Manchester Red is a real tug on the heartstrings for so many fans. Bruno Lage is preparing to roll the dice. We're in the final 5 minutes. Fabio Silva, one of the players who's going to come on. It's as though he's readying a double change. We're in the final 5 here on Premier League Live. Wolves 0, Manchester United 1. Mason Greenwood becoming only the second teenager in Premier League history to score in the first 3 Premier League games of the season. And it is his 20th Premier League career goal, which is not bad going. Ball played forward by Ruben Neves, and it's a good one. Finds Semedo. Semedo went for the first time cross, and it was blocked by Luke Shaw. Just a bit of a lack of imagination there from Semedo, because he didn't really look up at the options, and he only wins a throw and nothing more than that. Wolves are running out of time. At the moment, they face the prospect of losing their first 3 games by the same scoreline, 1-0. We're going to see Morgan. We're going to see Cody go off and be replaced by Morgan Gibbs-White. Played well in midweek against Forest, and Adama Traore is going off. I'm a little surprised by that, I have to say.
But both changes, I've got to be honest. Cody, I mean, he didn't look happy coming off. Very unusual to take him off.
You can only assume that there might be a formation change here, because Morgan Gibbs-White, of course, is a midfield player, and Fabio Silva's a striker.
Yeah, but you've got young Kilman there. I mean, baffling decision. I don't think Connor was too pleased with that either.
It's always a big call to take captain off.
Yeah.
It's always a big call to take the guy who's probably your best defender off. But Bruno Lage is waving his players forwards. But you would think the more risks they have to take, the more they need somebody like Conor Cody at the other end of the pitch holding everything together. But Bruno Lage is paid to make those decisions, and we'll see if it pays off. Foul is made by Martial on Greenwood, who has grown into the game, David.
Yeah, he has, and he gives you that goal threat no matter where he plays in that front line. He's a real talent left and right. His finishing ability is, I guess, if I was comparing how he strikes a ball and the precision in the corners, it's sort of up there with how Harry Kane strikes a ball.
Yeah,
it's really, I think, he's an incredible finisher, Greenwood.
It's interesting, you listen to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who knows all about scoring goals. Hear him talk about him, says he's really matured, physical strength is better, hold-up play, link-up play. Says the next step is to not think so much about finishing and just trust himself to do it, because he can do it. He says his movement in the box has improved just by having Cavani in the building. Here is Shaw moving the ball in field to Martial, who wins the free kick. He's been heavily involved, Martial, not in terms of tricks and flicks, but he's protected the ball pretty well so far.
Well, he has, but young Kilman there just bought that foul. In terms of just putting pressure on Martial, he had nowhere to go, and Martial knew exactly what he was doing. Any sort of contact, he would have gone to ground. Maybe Conor Cody wouldn't have done that, but it's not on the pitch, so
free kick to Manchester United, and they're going to make a change here. Mason Greenwood's going off, and he has scored the only goal of this game so far, a controversial one. Wolves felt they should have had a free kick in the build-up for a foul by Pogba on Ruben Neves, but Mason Greenwood played on, and Mason Greenwood scored, and that could be the only goal of the game. He's a player with such a big future. So he's replaced by a fullback, Diogo Dalot, who's a player that was on loan at Milan last season and continues to be linked with a move to Borussia Dortmund, who do have a need for a right back at the moment. Could see lots of moves between now and the transfer deadline. Ball given away by Fabio Silva. He's got 2 goals and 3 assists in his last 11 Premier League games, Silva. 19 years old. He was Wolves' youngest ever Premier League scorer when he opened his account at this level. Signed for big money from Porto, Fabio Silva. Pressure on his shoulders. Ball is with João Moutinho. We've reached the 90-minute mark, and there will be 5 additional minutes. Jimenez spreads the play to Podence. Tight to the left touchline. Fabio Silva in the middle. Players joining now. Here is Podence. Lofted into the area towards Fabio Silva. Brilliant header away by Varane. He has been excellent at the heart of that United defence. Did we really expect anything different? Does feel like, David, they've made some really important signings. Varane coming in at the heart of defence. I do think Jadon Sancho in the fullness of time will make a big difference to them, and of course the return of Cristiano Ronaldo. It feels like a team that's no longer building Manchester United. They're in win now mode.
Yeah, possibly. I still think they need to add another, maybe I think a holding midfield player. I know everyone has been saying that for a long time, or a lot of people, but I'd probably agree with that. There's something else there. I agree, the spine of the team has been strengthened, make no mistake, with Varane and Ronaldo, but maybe just one more in the middle of the park.
Yellow card picked up by Morgan Gibbs-White for tugging the shorts of Luke Shaw. He's never going to get away with that. Player that had a brief loan at Swansea last season, Morgan Gibbs-White, still just 21. He's been with Wolves since the age of 8. Player that has won an under-17 World Cup with England, so a player with a bright future. Harry Maguire's free kick is headed away by Marçal, but time is the enemy for Wolverhampton Wanderers. We're in the second minute of 5 in stoppage time. Here is Bruno Fernandes away down the right hand side into the area. Oh, he played the ball straight to Jose Sarr. I think he was hoping Martial would make a different run, but all he did was gun the ball into the gloves of Sarr. Here goes Podence trying to get away from Pogba. Pogba's brought him down, and that's surely going to be a yellow card for Paul Pogba. Mike Dean in the thick of the action once again, but he had no real choice there, David.
No, obviously I think Paul Pogba knew that Podence has got the pace to get past him. He's a little bit tired, a bit fatigued, and saying he's got a touch of cramp, but there's 3 Wolves players trying to get him off the deck and get the game going. Obviously we've got half of the 5 minutes that have been played already.
Well, Pogba is on his backside at the moment, talking to Mike Dean and saying that he's genuinely injured, and he's got Neves firing daggers at him in a figurative sense, of course. Not really, that would be a totally different picture.
Well, he's indicating he might have a touch of cramp, which is unusual considering he played, obviously, so much football and in the Euros, etc. But they could have given a couple of free kicks here. Dalot on Marçal, and then obviously they did give the one Pogba on Podence.
It was a clear drag back on Podence. Ruben Neves is still shouting at the referee. Now he's got to be careful because he has picked up a yellow card. Bruno Lage is talking to the fourth official, Robert Jones. And we're into the final 90 seconds of stoppage time. Now, of course, they will add some on here. Marçal and Pogba exchanging views. And eventually we'll get this free kick taken, and they have taken it now. Marçal with a left-footed cross towards Fabio Silva over his head and cleared by United. And Fabio Silva puts his hands into his long brown locks and has a rather dismayed look on his face as the free kick is given against him.
Oh, what a waste. I mean, they were really bright there, Wolves. Man United had switched off, they took it quick, passed it out wide, and they delivered an early ball in the box. But Fabio Silva had already started his run. He was clearly offside. Obviously, that is just... what a waste.
Well, it looks as though Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's 100th Premier League game as Manchester United boss is going to end with 3 points, unless Wolves can pull off something remarkable in the closing seconds. Ball is cleared by Saiz, and then Fernandes bumped into him a little bit, but not enough to elicit the yelp that came from Saiz. He was hoping for a free kick, and that free kick never arrived. Has been played in a rather tetchy manner in this second half. There's nothing wrong with that. We want teams to compete, to battle. It has felt more like a battle in this second half.
Well, I mean, if they do end up losing this, Wolves, I don't think it's been a complete disaster. I thought they played really, really well at times.
Here's Cavani, left corner of the penalty area, back to Martial. Back towards Cavani. It was Bruno Fernandes trying to tickle the ball through to him. Kilman under pressure, finds Semedo, chops the ball towards halfway. Towering header from Pogba, no cramp there. Here's Martial down the left-hand side, trying to race away from João Moutinho. Protecting the ball well here, Martial. He finds Bruno Fernandes. Fernandes couldn't return the favour to Martial. Lofted forward by Ruben Neves, flicked on by Jimenez. Anywhere will do from Rafa Varane, and he just smashes that ball out of play on the far side as Cavani gives Marçal a bit of a nudge as he was going to get that ball. We're approaching the 96-minute mark. How long do Wolves have left? It's with Kilman. If it's going to happen for Wolves, it's got to happen now. Ruben Neves in the centre circle. Out to Marçal. He'll wind up another left-footed cross towards the far post. Fabio Silva out jumped by Maguire, and then an acrobatic volley from Gibbs-White goes wide of the target, and that surely is the final chance.
Yeah, ambitious one as well. I mean, Gibbs-White facing away from goal, the ball's going back towards his own goal. He's about 16 yards out, tries an acrobatic kick. They've had a few of them today, that one from Saiz in the first half. And maybe, just maybe, when they had those chances in the first half, the fact they didn't take them has come back to haunt them, because they haven't been far away here. They really haven't. I don't think in any of their games they've been that far away, Wolves, but they're going to be on the wrong end of another single goal defeat.
The cardboard cutout of Cristiano Ronaldo still being hoisted aloft by the away support. But without him, Manchester United have taken 3 points. Mason Greenwood the hero, as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wins his 100th Premier League game in charge of Manchester United. They did it the hard way. They had to really dig in at times. But the final score is Wolves 0, Manchester United 1. And here are the highlights. Trincao will take him on, and he'll burst into the area. Big chance here, cleared on the goal line brilliantly, and then Trincao tried to keep it alive, and Manchester United survive. Jimenez on the charge, and he's got there ahead of Varane, plays it to the far post, and it's just wide of the target. Here is Greenwood, left foot shot, oh, didn't miss by much. Traore, Trincao's in the box if he can find him. He finds Trincao. Oh, he's made a mess of it. Here it comes towards the far post. The header is won. Saved brilliantly by De Gea. That's a remarkable save. Saiz has his head in his hands. He cannot believe that Wolves haven't scored there. Somehow David De Gea kept it out. Pogba with a loose touch, and that's away by Neves, and he was caught there, I thought, but the referee says play on. Here goes Mason Greenwood. This might be controversial. Greenwood with the shot, and Greenwood with the goal, and there is a piece of history. Only the second teenager in Premier League history to score in the first 3 games of a Premier League season. Greenwood again makes the difference. Wolves feel they should have had a free kick, and it is Wolves 0, Manchester United 1. All 3 games 1-0. David, they had some bright moments, there's no question about that, but again they haven't found a way to score. No,
you know, they huffed and puffed at times, and that is going to be their issue this season, goal scoring, make no mistake, because they did a lot of good work there on the counter. You know, Torreira is a threat, Trincao, they did tire, they did fatigue, looked a little bit weary in the second half, and game descended into one of those, you know, free kicks and fouls. It was a bit bitty, a bit titchy, as you said, but ultimately, you know, that little bit of, I guess, quality maybe that United had, but look, but there wasn't a lot in it. There wasn't, and I think maybe out of all of it, the goalkeeper Sarr should have done a bit better with the goal.
And United with so many match winners, this time Mason Greenwood.
Yes, look, he's a threat whether he plays down through the middle or wide. You know, he was the one to stay on. I think the wingers for United were poor today. You know, they really were, Sancho and Dan James, but, you know, they just about had enough.
My thanks to David Connolly for his insights and his company. I've been your match commentator, Kevin Hatchard. So Manchester United have recovered from that draw with Southampton last weekend. A full debut for Rafa Varane, a full debut for Jadon Sancho. Perhaps Varane outshone Sancho on the day, but ultimately it was the result that mattered, and Manchester United adding a bit more fuel to the fire of their title push. The final score, Wolves 0, Manchester United 1. You've been listening to Premier League Live.
The Best 11 podcast from Talk Sport.
Johnny Owen and Mark Webster interview the biggest names in popular culture.
Looking back at the role the beautiful game has played in their lives.
Paul Weller. Could I just start off apologising for last weekend?
Actor Stephen Graham. Good morning, Stevie.
Morning. Sharing their earliest football memories.
How they celebrated their team's successes.
Culminating in their all-time best 11.
Noel Gallagher.
Let's deal with the hangover and let's have it again after that.
The Best 11 podcast. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Tom Rennie. Join me for a weekly podcast, Week in the Tackle, available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm going to be joined by Brian Dunseth, MLS legend, to tackle the biggest stories from the week in soccer.
And the great thing about working with Tom and making Week in the Tackle is we're only going to be covering things we think are worth tackling.
This show is all about passion. What's going to get us riled up? What's going to get you riled up to give us all something to chew on?
We're not here to sit on the fence and tell you the stories of the day. That's what your phone's for. You'll be scrolling through Twitter while listening anyways.
Exactly. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. I'll save you the trouble. It is all bad news. This show is about tackling all the news of the week, giving our take on why it's interesting and why we think you should know it.
Who should be sacked? Who should be bought? Who should be sold? Who was right? Who was wrong?
Strong opinion, big stories, no agenda.
Week in the Tackle is available on Mondays from wherever you get your podcasts. If it's a big story in soccer, we'll tackle it.
Got an unquenchable thirst for sport? Get up to speed with the day's biggest sports stories with the Talk Sport Hit. Crammed full of the latest team news, big match previews, and discussing the day's hottest topics.
An improvement week in, week out.
Plus, get all the latest results and full fan reaction to the biggest events in world sport.
It's a wonderful goal!
Satisfy your thirst for sports news with the Talk Sport Hit. Subscribe now on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The Women's Football Weekly Podcast.
With Faye Carruthers. All the action, excitement and drama from across the entire women's game.
Cleared off the line by Steph Horton.
Including the Women's Super League.
Ellen White is there to tap it in.
The UEFA Women's Champions League.
Lana Cleland striking from outside the penalty area.
and the Euro 2021 qualifiers.
On the edge of the area to Emsley, and Emsley's going to finish it off.
Plus, all the home nations' international friendlies.
Lucy Bronze with the strike from the edge of the penalty area.
World-beating big match conversation.
There's Jodie Taylor.
Subscribe now to the Women's Football Weekly podcast on Acast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.